let's get into today's session, today's discussion agenda, and that's around something called purchase to pay workflow, right? A quick glimpse of this, and I hope like most of you would have worked with MNC companies or some sort of a large organization and how they follow their entire procurement. And believe me, most of the enterprises are using ERPs for this whole thing, like for approval things here and there, but still there are so many gaps, so many challenges, issues and all, and that can be solved with really basic workflows. So for example, just imagine this. Let's say if I have IT team and one of my employee wanted a monitor, or maybe a couple of people wanted to have some headphones or something like that, right? They come to me, and it's, imagine it's a large organization of 100 people, 200 people. It's not an honor driven thing. You go to honor and say, okay, can you get me a monitor, can you get me this particular thing, right? So as soon as the organization grows, they are going to run by the process. So for example, if one of my teammate looking for or requiring a monitor, then he said, can you get? Now, how he should supposed to run everything? He should send me an email officially and say, I need a monitor for my work. As an operation manager, I'll evaluate whether it's a genuine requirement or it's not required, something like that. Then I'll say, okay, yeah, it's a good requirement. Yes, my teammate required this. Then this requirement supposed to go to maybe a finance approver or maybe a procurement manager. That procurement manager will further go, and again, it's not upon his discretion from whom to buy. In larger companies, in a well-structured organization, he's supposed to have multiple vendors, maybe 3 vendors, 4 vendors for electronics, 4 vendors for office supply, 4 vendors for something else, right? For each of these sections. So he'll say, okay, now I got a monitor requirement, which is a BenQ monitor, 24 inches, 27 inches, and so on. Now he will have a list of suppliers who provide all these electronic hardware. So he will send this requirement to all of these suppliers and say, can you get me a quotation? First of all, can you fulfill this requirement? And can you get me a quotation for this? Now, all these suppliers supposed to respond to this person, the procurement manager, and they'll submit their code. Among one of them, and since it's a standard requirement, this BenQ monitor is supposed to come like from that company, so it's always going to be the same thing. It's a play about the rate card, right? So who provide the best bid? Once that is done, this procurement manager will select one of the supplier from the procurement department and will say, okay, this supplier is supposed to fulfill this. But now, how he will go ahead and purchase? Obviously, there will be no advance payment as such, but the supplier also needs some sort of a confirmation. Let's say supplier will say, okay, I'm going to supply you this thing, but can you get me a confirmation? So in that case, there is a term called purchase order, right? So PO, purchase order being or should be released by this procurement department to the supplier saying that, okay, this is our PO, this is what we want. And it's an official confirmation from a company side that you should supply this particular requirement, this particular item to us, right? The supplier will send it with a good receipt note, GR note and everything. And then that particular product will be delivered to your premises, will be handed over to that particular operation manager or to the employee. It will be commissioned properly on their desk or wherever they want. Now the second round comes in. Okay, sorry, one more thing. Before even making this purchase, while raising this purchase order, depend upon the value, this purchase order, it's a financial obligation for the company. Because when you raise that purchase order, you ask a supplier to, okay, send me a monitor which costs 10,000 rupees. If I send it, supplier can directly ship that particular item to my premises, and that becomes my responsibility to pay him. There's supposed to be someone involved from the finance who can approve it. Let's say if it is a 10,000 rupees order, maybe a normal finance manager can approve. But if it is a 10 crore rupees order, right, then a finance director or CFO supposed to approve this, right? Because it's again a liability being earned on that organization's level. So in this case, while raising a purchase order, the procurement manager go ahead, say finance team that, okay, I selected this particular supplier based upon his quotation, and now I am going to raise a purchase order. There will be a PO created, and then this purchase order is supposed to go to this finance head or finance manager or someone else for the approval. They approve and say, okay, go ahead, raise this PO to the supplier. Supplier get the purchase order, supply that particular thing. It will be commissioned on that particular person's desk or somewhere, wherever the goods supposed to come. And then supplier will send you an invoice, right, for that particular item which he sold you. And along with that invoice, he will mention that I'm raising this invoice against this particular purchase order number, right? So you told me to supply this thing. Here is your PO number. On the invoice, they'll mention it. And then they'll say, okay, I'm invoicing for this item or this rate for this date and so on. And you should pay me. Now, when the finance team get that bill from the supplier side, they should have some sort of document to cross check it. And what is the document to cross check? Is going to be the purchase order, because that's what being approved, right? Otherwise, if there are multiple people involved into one hierarchy, like someone who raised that request, someone who raised the purchase order, and someone else who's paying this invoice, to the end vendor again, there can be discrepancy, right? So if I agreed to buy one monitor from one supplier for 10,000 rupees, then I owe him only 10,000. And when his invoice comes in, it's supposed to be 10,000 rupees only, not 20,000, not 12,000, not 15,000. So when the account payable team, there is a team inside the finance department that's called account payable, who manage all the payment for the suppliers, for the vendors. So when this vendor send the invoice, they're supposed to always mention the PO number. And the account payable team will go into the purchase order table, into that PO database, will try to fetch out that PO and say, okay, does this PO has the same item, what we ordered? That same item is being built from the supplier side. The rate is matching, the quantity is matching. And then, yes, if it is all good, we are going to go ahead and ask again one more time to the finance manager or finance head or finance director to approve this invoice so it can be paid off to that vendor, right? This is how the entire process works. Most of time, or I would say 80% of the times in cross organization, even including MNCs or larger companies, this process has so much manual intervention. When you submit a request, it's supposed to go via email. You have to keep on following up with the procurement manager. Did you send this request to, or when I'm to the supplier, when I'm going to get this, PO is raised, not raised, and so on. When supplier invoice comes in, at the same time, some person has to handle it, check out whether the PO has value, doesn't have value, and so on. It's a valid invoice number and so many things, right? And again, there is a lot lag happens through this entire procurement process. And even because of that, there are chances of corruptions, there are chances of like mishandling or miscommitment to suppliers, and it's a loss to company. It's a financial loss to me, right? Not opportunity or not other loss. It's a direct loss to me. So this process is a very much painful thing across the finance and the procurement department. And with the help of automation, we can streamline a lot. Now, when I say it's a pain, or let's say it's a partially cooked process, that too I'm talking about as your larger enterprises, right? This process itself most of time does not exist with the SMB, small medium, right? So they don't have enough system, they don't have infrastructure, they're not using ERPs, they're not using like a system like SAP or Oracle or those kind of things, which doesn't have integrated module for all of them. And because of that, most of time it gets fall out and someone blames the other one, honor is being involved, or unnecessary losses are being. So to make it transparent, to make it even deployable with a very small organization, with a SMB, we can have this entire automation being built on top of two. One is called Airtable, or maybe Google Sheet as well, but I would prefer Airtable because today I'll show you a couple of things about Airtable, how the interconnection works, how things are being structured and all, and with the help of Anytime. So Anytime has form capabilities, Anytime has plenty of integration, human in the loop kind of things. So approvals can be managed on the workflow itself. So those things we are going to build on this entire use. One is Airtable, second is Anytime, and all of these. See, there are two parts of the whole process. One is when employee submits something, it goes for operation manager approval, procurement take their action, they send a couple of things to suppliers, collect their quotations, and finally PO is being created with the finance manager approval, and PO gets supplied or being delivered to the vendor, right? When the fulfillment happen, the supplier is going to send out us an invoice or maybe their bill. The bill supposed to be mapped with the PO, should be verified, and final payment processing supposed to happen by the. So this is what we will discuss. Let's get into this. I will quickly showcase you a couple of templates which I built using Claude. So first of all, this kind of template where one email goes to the operation manager, it says dear operation manager, a new requirement came submitted for this particular ID, sorry, for this particular item, requirement ID, there is the requirement detail, requester name, item ID, description, quantity, justification, and submission date. And he's supposed to take some action on this, right? So one of the template I'm quickly showing. Then once the operation manager says, okay, good to go, then this is supposed to go to procurement manager. And it says a new purchase requirement has been approved by the operation manager and ready for the vendor outreach. Here's the requirement ID and approval status is approved by someone, what action required for you to get quotations from various vendors, right? Then once these things are done, we'll say, dear supplier, we are going to have a couple of requirements in our organization. Can you please fulfill them? So it should go to multiple of suppliers, and based upon the responses, that's going to be a kind of human process, but we can even put that on automation, the vendor selection part. Then here, when the PO is being approved, everything is done. Sorry, before that. So it says once the PO is created, it's supposed to go to finance approver for their approval. It says PO number is this, amount is this, department, budget. Here is what the requirement. And then can you please approve this purchase order? So once finance approves it, it's going to be created as a purchase order and will be delivered to this guy, to the supplier. It says dear office shop. we are like looking for this supply. Here's the PO number, PO value, what item we want, and so on. So these are a couple of templates, or these are a couple of basic things. And apart from this, I created this whole thing into Airtable. So this is how Airtable look like. I'll quickly give you a glimpse of it. We are anyways going to build up from scratch. So this has multiple tables. One is called the requirement table, where we have all the unique requirement IDs, the requester name, everything being filled by the person using all of these, let's say, form field. So requirement ID, requester name, requester email, department, request date, item name, description, category, how much quantity, justification, urgency, and so on. Second table is called the PO table, purchase order table. I'll show you how to even map or interconnect things on Airtable, right? So this is how like the whole structure becomes more and more efficient. So it says whether PO is approved or not approved from the finance approver side, and then a couple of notes, PO value, and others. And finally, when invoice gets in, like what is the invoice ID, to which PO this is being processed, and whether this invoice being paid, unpaid, it's scheduled to be paid, overdue. Now, apart from this, we have a supplier table where we say for what category we have what kind of suppliers. So for, let's say, hardware, we got 3 suppliers over here. For computer accessory, we have these 3 suppliers and their respective email address. So it's a common supplier table which will be looked by the system and will be available for this guy, the procurement guy, to look up who all supplier I do have, whether they are active, inactive, and so on, and I can reach out to. And there is a finance approver table which says there is an approver name, Manish, Nikhil, and so on. Approver email address, what is their approval limit? So approval amount up to 10,000, up to 100,000. So this goes like anything up to 10,000 should go to Manish. Anything above 10,000 up to any amount can go to Nikhil. So this is how we can have this entire baseline. Now let's try to rebuild, and I'll even show you a couple of fundamentals of Airtable as well. So if I go to Airtable, now since I already have an account, we got a paid account on Airtable. So let's start it with creating a new base. Now let's go to bases. Bases are nothing but your spreadsheet. How you have a spreadsheet in Google Sheets, which can have multiple subsheet. So similar way, there is something called base. So let's create a base. Now it has 2 options. Is like, do you want to build an application or you are trying to build something yourself? So I'll say, okay, I would build something myself. And here we got folder, or you can say workspaces. So let's go with build an app on your own. Now, starting with this, we land into something like this, which says untitled base, table 1, and so on. Try to, I'll say P2P or system dash purchase something, some sort of a color gradient, and so it has some AI also available. So in case if you try to import some data from CSV, Google Sheet, or Excel, or maybe plenty other options you can go with, and you can even ask it to build table structure for yourself. But again, not recommended, because most of the time this AI integration doesn't work good, and it may like mess up things. So it will be more rework as compared to what you try to. Now, in this case, we got option to add multiple tables. Okay, first of all, see here. So we gave this base a name, which is system purchase to payment. Now, by default, we are into database section. So we can build our tables and multiple sections and all. Second is called automation. So if I click here, it land here, add a trigger, and you can do all of these things what you want, right? Even they got their own predefined structures as well, like send email or update a record or do something else, Slack message and all. Couple of native integrations, or we can even trigger webhooks directly from Airtable to trigger any automation. Then there is something called interfaces. So you can build based upon your database, you can build this kind of good looking graph chart or dashboards. And this got plenty of good let's say widgets. So you can play with one data in maybe 10 different types. And these widgets or these entire interface can be access control as well. So you can go with like publicly shareable, shared within a team, or something like this. So access control is available in good mode. And finally, there's something called form. So here we can have this whole form. The form can take data into your data, right? So whatever fields we create over here, they can be run through with a form. So this is how Airtable is being structured. Now, by default, there are a couple of views also available. So currently we are into grid view, but we can build multiple view based upon specific filters, and those view can be shared with one person or someone else. So let's say when we run Airtable within our own organization for task management, we say project manager 1 has these many tasks, project manager 2 has these many tasks. So we create multiple views for them based upon their specific precondition filters and even their access control, and they get to see only that particular, not everything in the org. So that's there. Now let's get started with first of all our requirement table. So we'll say we wanted to build a requirement database. I would say let's say table or requirement DB. It can be anything. Save. Okay. Now I have option to create multiple field types. So see, by default it gives you name, notes, assignee, and so on. But if you click here, you will get to see plenty of different field type, which is linked to one of the record, single, long, attachment, checkbox, multiple select, single select, date, phone number, URL. So many things are available. So you can, that's why I said like within Google Sheet also, you may not find these many fields, but over here you have even formula. There's something called roll up. So we're going to use them, but plenty of things. You can put barcodes within this. You can have buttons to trigger some action from this entire status. So plenty of things are available over here. Now let's create our entire table. So first of all, we'll say for every single requirement, we wanted to give it a requirement number. It should be a unique. As soon as someone submits the requirement, it's supposed to be a unique requirement number, right? So I'll say I wanted to give a requirement, but from where I'm going to maintain this whole sequence, like what is the next requirement number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So within Airtable, what I could do is I'll say requirement hash, something like this. And over here, I could have selected there's something called number field, which contains 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But at the same time, I'll have to put the next value. After 5, what comes? 6. So I'll say 5 plus 1 should 6. Instead of that, there is a field available that is called auto number. And auto number is going to automatically number down all the fields in a unique format. So it says automatically generates, if I just keep hover over here, a unique number for each of these lines. Let's click save and see what happens. 1, 2, 3, all these numbers. As soon as I add the next one, it says number 4. Now, even if I delete this, let's say maybe number 3 is gone, delete the requirement line ID. I have 1, 2, 4. Now, if I add next one, it's supposed to get 5. So it is managing numbers automatically right from the whole, right? So it's all unique values populated over here, and this is being controlled by. Now, yes, Arif rightly said. So if it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, instead, can I put REQ dash 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or something like that? So in this case, I can have one field that is called a formula field within Airtable. So if I click on formula, I'll say requirement ID. So it was requirement hash as a number. And if I say requirement ID, here I'll get to see concatenate. What to concatenate? So I got requirement hash over here. So first I'll say with 2 quotes, how we put any normal formula in Google Sheet. Same way you can do here. So we'll say REQ dash and comma. I would like to have this requirement field to be added. So see, as soon as I type requirement, it gets here and close the bracket. Now if I click on create field, see what happens. It says REQ12. And instead of keeping this as a main field, I can put this one at this time. But so it says changing requirement, changing primary field. I'll say yes, and let's do it. So it's here. And now I can simply hide this. So if I add next one, it ought to get requirements REQ6 and so on, right? REQ. So I don't have to worry about like what is the next field going to be. It automatically generates this whole code. And even if something goes out, it's not going to interrupt this hierarchy, stay there. So like I hope you got it, like a small use case of Airtable or advantage of Airtable versus Google Sheets, right, or normal database. Now, once this is done, we would like to move forward and we'll say, who's the request? So let me pause for 1 hour, delete all the as well. We are going to build everything from this one. Now I'll say, I wanted to put a single line text, and this is supposed to be requester name. Let's click, it's a no-brainer, straightforward thing. Then we'll say requester email. So either I can use email field, which has the name and the email address both, or I can go with a single select as well. It doesn't make any difference. So, single text. So I'll say email. Let's further down. I would like to check what is their department. So in case of department, it can come from various department, maybe IT or finance or HR or something else. So here in this case, I can go for single select as a column type, which give me a drop down. And from the drop down, I could single select the department name, which could go here, HR, finance, IT, maybe operations, something like this. Or even there can be called sales and marketing as well. Let's see. Further down this, I would like to say, so this is the basic identifier of this person who's going to raise the request. And here we have all of these. You get to see this color combination as like how you want to put color grading, all of them. Now, then we'll say, what is the request date? So in case of date field, if I choose date, go here, I'll say request. And here we get plenty of formats. Local format, friendly, this, that. So I'll go with the friendly format. I can also include time, which is something like this, 12 hours, 24 hours. Further down, we'll go and say what item this person is looking. Now, in this case, we can go for either single line, long text. For now, I'll go with single line text and I'll say item name, single line, because it's going to be a very small short name. Then further, we have what is your item description. So in this case, we'll go with item category. So in this case, we'll go with a single select over here, item category. And here I could apply, let's say office supplies. So we can restrict the other person, like what kind of things you can come up with, right? Or what kind of things you can request from the procurement department. Then I'll say computer accessories, or maybe Yeah, accessories. We can have some sort of a furniture requirement, or then we can have, let's say, any sort of softwares to be required, and maybe something else, right? So I think these are the four things. Then we have item supposed to be a long text because the person supposed long text is all good. Then here I can put what is your quantity requirement. So in this case, quantity, I can put a number direct like this. I'll say quant number, and with numbers you can have like decimal places, a separator, and so on. Worried about this? Let's go with the basic setting. Here I'll also ask the person, what is your justification? Why do you want this? So reason for requirement or some sort of. And further down, we can also ask this person how urgent or how priority wise. So is it urgent, medium, or kind of a low priority kind of a thing, right? So I'll say again single select, and here high, low. Could have been green, so urgent either high, medium, low. See, one more thing I'll tell you, and I always keep on saying again and again, all of these automation or whatever use case we are building, it's all driven by the actual process. So like automations are not always that beautiful and so on. We should always build the backend, or we should. So your automation is going to build or run on top of all of these, the fundamental architecture or infrastructure of it. So it is super important. You should be able to factor as many different aspects or as many different angles which you can here. Then you'll be able to use them inside the process. If they don't exist over here, it'll be gone. So while building this infra, you should be very careful, very mindful. So for now, we are assuming that everyone or one person is going to buy only one single item into one particular acquisition. And as I said, we can always increase complexity as per the end customer request. So until this point, we said what is the urgency, and at the same time, what is the requirement status? So whether PO is being created, whether the requirement is only submitted, approved by the operation manager. So all of those status can be, let's say, filled or maintained by us. So I'll say operation approved. Same way, operation manager rejected something. So further down, we can have wait. Further down, we can have POs, and maybe next to it, we have item or fulfilled, something like that. So that's there. Now, once we have this starting point, let's try to build one quick N10 form which can help us connect everything, and then we'll run through the entire automation flow. This could have been done with the Airtable form as well, but we'll go with complete N10. And obviously, this is not a complete table yet. We are just capturing the end user's requirement. Next to it, we are going to create multiple more tables and we'll interconnect them over here as well. But let's get started. And guys, please have sound attention because we are building up the system. Each of one by one bricks are being built. So let's go here. We'll start it one of workflow. Okay, done. Now here, let's get in. So now I'll say either I can go with a form submission with this, or I could also choose Airtable, and Airtable has a trigger called on new Airtable if. So whenever record is being created, I could otherwise can go utilize it. So I'll go with N10 forms, and here I can either recreate this entire thing. So I'll say here is my production URL of this particular form, authentication not required, requirement form, provide complete, and here we could simply reiterate all the fields. So wherever we have, let's replicate all these fields. Let's do one to save time. Now, once we get into Airtable, we have to connect our Airtable into N10. So here it will say either you can go with a new record or let's say new connection. And for Airtable, it's asking us for an API kit. So I could provide this first of all, and I could give it a name of, let's say, now it says, do you want to provide API key, access token, or OAuth? I'll say to provide you access. Now with the access token, I should go back to my Airtable. Let's click on this, and there is something called Builder Hub or integration. So I'll go with Builder Hub window, and here we have access creation. So it says create your personal access token PAT personal token part. I'll say 10 flow. Then I have to add scopes. What all things I would want to do particular personal. So I'll go and say I would like to read records. Then I would like to even write records. Maybe some sort of comment read, comment write, even Airtable schema. So how table structure look like in case if I have to use somewhere, I am going to give as well. And there are a couple of more things: webhook management, block, or get user info. I don't need any of them. So I just need a couple of permissions. Then I'm going to add a base, for which base I'm going to provide. So here in this case, my base is called system purchased payment. So this is how, first of all, I added a name of this particular connection, all the scopes and the X, and then let's go create it. Here is my token. Copy this. We'll go back here. Button. It says by default you should have at least these permissions: schema read, read write, records, and perfect connection tested successfully, and credentials are also. So here we have V3 Manish M Airtable as our the connection. Now it's not a instant trigger, it's a polling based trigger or API based trigger. So it says like minimum every minute I would like to API call. I said yeah, that's fine. Now here it's asking us to provide the base. Base is nothing but what we created over here, this system purchase to payment. And over here says requirement table. So I'll go to this, and instead of by URL or by ID, I can put this base. So if let's go by URL, let's go to system, simply click on this, copy the entire URL. Further down table, so if I go here, I can still copy the same table because see here, there's a table ID also and there is a base ID included. See, base is starting just after this airtable.com and there's something called app. Then table is TBL. There is a view called VIW. And even if I open this record, there'll be one more thing called REC is the record. So either I could pick up these specific IDs or I can go and provide the entire URL. The Anton can manage. So even we can go with either ID of the base or we can go with the entire URL, right? So let's say if we go by ID, the ID is called APP app and then this entire, right? The table is starting with this TBL, then whole ID. And here also we can put, now it says, when do you want to trigger this? So either I can define a trigger field or I can leave it as it is. So it's anyways, whenever there is a new record is going to be created, it's going to create or trigger these. Then I can define like what all field I would like to get out of this entire table, maybe formula, view ID, and so I'll leave everything as it is. I don't want to restrict it to any specific. Let's click out, not be resolved. Trigger C. So my make.com, this Anton automation workflow is asking what is a trigger field to trigger this. So I'll say whenever there's a value in or newly updated values or created values comes into created time field, it's up to trigger the, and obviously that will happen only when a new record is being created. So let's try to run this and see what happened. There is a new field what we created last week called record number 6 or requirement. Only 2 fields are being filled so far. This requires, and that's how it, if I had gone save more time, this would have it's returning. That's fine. Okay, I have to make a judgment here and I'm getting confused, little confused. See, we have two ways to do things. One is either I can go with this Airtable form or I can create a form inside Anton. And the advantage with Airtable form is if I update anything, let's say item category, for example, user can select from a drop down. But if I create an Anton form, I have to go and manually update that all the time. So let's Airtable form, new form over here, requirement table form, and let's see. So we got a cover image, we got a logo, and for the name, email, the department name, request date, we don't want to show them because we already know when they're going to request. So we can simply hide this. There's supposed to be option, see always show field. Instead I will item name, item category, which will be selected by here, then item description, quantity, and just this, right? So I can simply publish this form with a logo or something, go here, logo, and maybe a cover image, but let's publish it. Once it's going to, do you want this form? So anyone with the web can use this form, and over here, it's supposed to look like, could have been improved a lot, or we could have, but let's try and, so I'll say requester name is department name, and here the drop down item name I wanted to have when we said, then it's supposed to go into office accessories, this one. So this thing supposed to get, and here everything came, right? So request ID by default it's blank, fine, the state as, or I think created date index save. So this request date is already being populated. So now urgency not asked. In case if you'd like to add more field, you can always add like this, or even requirement status. Obviously status nothing to do with the end user, so we could have. So I hope you got it. The basic idea is to have all of these. Now if I run this trigger field, it's a little thing, but okay, let's see. If it doesn't work, we are going to have, but yeah, this is how the first table is being created. Now once this is done, I'll say I wanted to send this requirement to someone into the procurement department, right? Or first of all, the operations. Now, based upon this person name, we could also manage the entire org chart, and each of the person who fill their email or who fill their name based upon their employee ID, based upon their email, we can send the mapping of operations manager, who's manager for whom, and that request can be sent to that person. For now, I'll not keep it that complex. I'll say there is an operation manager who's common for all the people. So I'm going to send this request to that guy, right? So now in this case, as soon as the request is being done, I'll go here and I'll send an email to the operation. So go to Gmail, we are doing here send email, and into this take my latest email connection. All the time getting only record a quick hack. So what I did actually, I tried to put all the information from row number 8. See here. So I got all of these info. So requirement ID, Manish M. So now based upon this person's request, I'll say your manager supposed to be someone called test at Growwstacks, who's going to update or who's fulfill your request, right? And this person can have a subject line. See here, when we started this, says a new purchase requirement has been submitted by, so new purchase required. And in this case, instead of sending a normal email, I'll say there is something called human in loop. So I could have gone with a normal Gmail module, to do this, or I'll go with thing called human in loop, where the system supposed to send an automated email with approval or rejection option, and based upon their like the person's input or his response, system will take the further step. So as a human in loop is here. Now, how to interact with the human in the loop? There are plenty of different messaging platforms available. So we can go with Discord, maybe Microsoft Teams, Slack, Telegram. And for now, I'll use, right? So let's go with Gmail. And here I say, I want to send an email. It says send and wait for response to something called test@growstacks.com. This should be new purchase requirement. I would say hash and then simple mapping. And then I could have said action is dash. So this is how it was to look like new purchase requirement, hash this requirement ID, action required. Now further down I can go here and I can put my whole message downloaded and see this is the email template. I got the whole body copy. Go back here. I can put everything. So here in this case, whole HTML email should look like this. It has requirement ID again here. Then further down we have on submission who's the requester name here. Then further down we have what is the item name should place over here, description itself, quantity displays, specification here. It may be super boring for you to watch, and here is when so here is now on this request date by default. See, by default this whole request date goes like this. You can always put a formula, inline formula. You say dot format, and then this format can have a specific format type. Let's say DD and I could also. So you can always use inline formulas within an. Then further down, no other mapping is good. Now, something very, very important. See, when we said we are sending this email for approval, there are a couple of response types available. One is says response type approval or rejection, right? So the person can easily approve and do things. Second is called a free text. What free text does? If you go here, you can add options. So you can have like some sort of button. You can have some sort of form response title. And the third stuff, which is called custom form. So I can go with a custom form because I wanted to capture the approver's approval status, whether it is approved, rejected. At the same time, I also wanted to have some reason box. Reason box is why they approved or why they reject. Because someone is rejecting, they should provide reason as well. So I'll go with a custom form over here within human in loop step. And here you say add first element. The form element like is what is your decision, and decision can be a drop down. So here we say approved or we say reject. Next to it, we can have one more form element, and it's a required field, by the way. We have other field elements. It's called reason. Why did you approve or why did you reject? And this can be a normal text box or text area, which can give you more space to write the whole text. So both of these things are required for other person. And then append N10, we are going to toggle off. So we're not append N. And now if I click and say execute the step, let's see what happens. This whole information of requirement number 6 supposed to go to this ID called test@Growwstacks. So let's click execute. Okay, failed. Maybe let's try to use. Perfect. It says waiting for input. Let's go to address. See, this is my test not yet. See here. So this email arrived. It says new purchase requirements, action required. And further down, we have this entire email. Your dear operation manager, a new purchase requirement has been submitted for your whatever decision making and so on. Manisham, 18 inches monitor. I want to get anti-glare monitor, one like required to improve the speed to screens, and I could have mapped this time as well, right? Then it says action required, please review and take decision. And if I go here, there's a button called respond. I click on respond, see what happens. It takes me interface like where it has all of this email content. Along with this, there are two boxes at the bottom. And again, this could have been improved to a good level, right? So this whole email along with this, I'll say it is approved, and I'll say it's valid and simple click submit. As soon as the submit goes, it will trigger the automation. See here, it was earlier waiting, not approved. It's valid for the for my team members. Now you may have a question. The manager is not going to respond. So what will happen? See, the good thing with this human in loop function or this feature is it can wait for a day, hours, or even months or weeks, right? So it doesn't have to be like responded immediately. Your manager can reply maybe one day, after 1 hour, after 6 hours, and so on. So you don't have to worry about like what will happen if manager does not respond. N10 will keep a track of it. And as soon as that person is going to hit reply or respond, whatever decision making is done, this workflow will take things from here on. So at this point, I'll say, let's rename, make it ops. And in this case, whether they approve, reject. So we have to make a judgment whether it is approved or rejected. To make the judgment, we have something called flow control or flow over here, and we can have the called if condition. Now let's go with if. And since we have only one single condition, like we just have to check one variable. So I'll say if the decision is equal, then go on one route, otherwise go on the other one. So here is whether approval is true or false. If it is true, then we're supposed to send this entire thing to the procurement manager as well. And one thing I forgot, we should have an email confirmation to this requester as well, where we say your requirement raised, it's already being captured by the system, and here is your. So there was a form submission response, but at the same time, we should have some sort of an email confirmation to this guy so he can always refer the. So I think I did here, there's supposed to be a connection, but as to this send an email, let's try it, and we are going to capture received ID, and then for the simple body text for it will go operation this person to get, let's see. So this is an acknowledgement or confirm. So step 1 is we captured the response. Step 2 we send a confirm. Step 3 we send it to manager. Now for any reason if manager reject that to go anywhere, so I'll go simply back into Airtable and I'll say go ahead and simply update a record. So see here we got to update record version 3, all is good. So here I get to see a base by default be selected like purchase to payment because I allowed this connection only to work with a particular base table. We got only one single table, that is, and further down how to match it. So it's match based upon the ID. Further down to this, the status supposed to be it is being rejected by the manager. So opt manager and test. So this is when rejection by opt. If it is approved, it's supposed to go to the next person who is the procurement manager. So I'll go here and I'll say send one more email to a guy who's the procurement. Let's say email ID, and this time procurement manager can be use one of the ID called developer at Growwstacks, since I don't have the procurement ID, but I'm saying like this emails have to go to, and then here we received. So I created a couple of inquiry or mystery. I have a new requirement here. So we have like this further down entire structure of the. So I already have from there built it. Here we have, and I think so now further, and the as the if Gmail replied the guy him for now hi.com, because these are some mandatory get, so I'll have to rerun multiple times because just to capture the info. But again approval because I should provide both, or I could have just gone back and copied response. This case this time, so see here currently it's seeing for the ID is this, here is ID for the particular Airtable, and next to it over here this is done operation manager, and further down if I here should go sorry your reject, and I'll say reason what provided by is reason being matched. So this is how, or this could happen like if I would like to go with a straight route, whether it is approved or rejected both time this person notified, say instead it has been and decision. So in this case I'm not even taking this if condition. I will always try to put this person that whether it is your requirement has been, and here I can map a field of manager. Okay, just try to see what I did right wrong over here is in case if this requirement whether it is selected approved or rejected, both the time this person is supposed to be notified, and so he knows like my manager has already approved, right? So this should not go with a false condition. At the same time, this Airtable is supposed to be updated whether manager like approved something or rejected. See here we have two status: operation manager approved, operation manager rejected, right? Both of them. So in either whether it's a approval or rejected, both the time these two routes supposed to run. So in this case what I'll say if condition, so these two will not depend upon the if condition, they will always happen. So I'll simply map it like this, where I say run through this part, and this should be disconnected, and there can be direct route connected. So as soon as manager approves, this message has a structure like a default thing. What it says here, and it says your request, which is this particular request number, has been, and there is a variable. What is this variable? The decision variable. So if it is approved, it will say it is approved. If it is rejected, it's going to say reject, right? So it says your requisition number this has been rejected or has been approved, and so this becomes a generic notification for this person all the time. And same way I could have put in the email as well. So see here this email says hey your requisition has been this and reason is this, right? So even if manager is approving that, he should provide a reason, and both the will always have going up. Now in case of rejection, since the status is a drop down thing, we have operation manager reject, right? I could have put in an if condition over here as well. So I would have like put a if formula, and then this if formula can work like whether operation manager rejected, or I could simply select it from here and simply make a copy of this here, update it. So this will be approved by, in this case, save one more time, and we are good. And this procurement manager could have been someone else, like this guy who's going to get this. Now let's do one thing. Let's have a quick test. This case, requester name can be department. item what they want is maybe computer accessories thing. I just want to check whether this form is getting triggered or not. This particular node supposed to run every 1 minute and getting this, because sometime like these Airtable will have to wait because taking all the time this requires 6 bytes. Instead I could have created a, okay, now it's working, it's request. So what you can do is I'm going to send you this form link, and one of you, let's take Sandeep as an operation manager approach. Sandeep, can you pass me email ID? So here we have at Gmail. Perfect. So now all the email for all of us. So you can please start filling this form. I had already 9 is blank. I shared form link chat, so you guys can fill it. This guy, all. Essentially, previous 4 has gone to me to the test ID, and 1 is, so this is how look like approve, good to go. See, this requirement also got updated. So here in browser rejected, not good to go, and even this region could have been populated. So operation manager reject. Whose request was that?
Abhishek, go home.
We don't have the reason here why it was rejected in the calendar, right? In the table.
We did not capture it actually. We can
Was
do
it?
that. I'll say a long text. It says ops manager reason. It comes here, and then I could, okay. Whenever you do, always try to refresh the fields over here. Super important. See here, ops reason. Same thing should have refresh. See here, if you're working with any of the databases, you make any changes to tables or columns, something, you have these 3 dots, even in Google Sheet as well. Click on this and say refresh column list. You can go back, save. I think some data to debugger execution. So it was a rejection part. Copy to editor. Let's go back to editor. Okay. So it was supposed to be unpin the existing data, but it's fine. The reason is second time done. It should connect in even more time. Reason. So essentially this is how we should have been up. Yep, this is the approval part. So copy to edit in the data goes here. Here also an update. Currently I don't have a status after this. So refresh at the bottom. Enjoy. Go back. See here was it. So essentially like save and done. So your request will keep on popular. Procurement team will get notified, and where they get notified, the developer at Growwstacks. Here we have an email ID. See, this is how these people can, or the procurement. What it says, requirement number 11. If I click on this, it says Growwstacks procurement department, new requirement request 11. The procurement manager ID is ruled by the operation manager. Now this could have Airtable, let's say a record link, so all the information they can see, or maybe they will by default, we assume they'll by default have entire Airtable, so they can go back. Now after this point, since we already built things until this point, now the procurement manager is supposed to take action, and he supposed to go out. So let's add a couple of more stuff, and let's try to bridge or build the entire table, whole table structure about purchase order, about vendors, about approver, and so on. And from there, we are going to link all the tables, and we'll continue building other automation. Now, this was the first part where we had this entire procurement thing being notified, and so now let's start building a quick structure around it, and you will see how Airtable can be super helpful while interconnecting fields or interconnecting table data. So first of all, we had this requirement table, which is a raw basic requirement table, capture all the incoming. But at the same time, we wanted to a purchase order table where all the successful requirement goes, and each purchase order is separately identifiable. See, I could have done it here itself, like wherever the requirement is approved, it can go and create a new PO. But instead, I would prefer to go with a new holistic purchase order table, because when the supplier is going to submit an invoice, I have to match that invoice next to the PO table, right? Or against each of the purchase order. And I don't want to make it fully messy like this. So everything is happening in one single table. So I'll go here and I'll say I want to create a new table from scratch. And this should be PO table or purchase order table. Order. The first field over here is supposed to be like how we did the requirement ID. Same way, it's supposed to have a PO ID. And PO ID will get converted based upon order number plus a concate of PO. So let's quickly do this over here, and we'll say PO hash could have been auto number. Click save, done. And this field, I see by default we have these fields. Instead of entering a new field, I can simply edit the nature of the as well. Let's say PO ID. This can become a formula field. Here I go, I'll say concate. And what to concate? First of all, PO hash, this PO number. For that, 2 codes. Here I'll say PO dash. So the whole thing becomes PO dash 1 or 0, 1 or 6. Save. And here we get PO 1, 2. So now I can simply move this field to the first, make it a primary field, and this supposed. So this is how we have things. Now, how to interconnect multiple, let's say every requirement, every requisition supposed to be connected with a purchase order. So when I say a purchase order has been created, like the status changed to PO created. Now, how will I know to which particular requirement what PO is created? And I don't want to do it manually. So what I can do, I will go to this PO table and I will say add a column which is nothing but a lookup or a link to another record column. Link to another record is I can link this particular record with another record from another table. So if I choose this, let's say go here, link to another record, click this, it says from which table do you want to link record? I'll say from the requirement. So let's choose this. And he says, what is your field name? So I'll say it's requirement ID, something like this, or requirement number. And here it says link to requirement table, allow linking multiple records. So I said no, one PO will be linked to one particular. So I can simply check this off. Along with this, it says like, do you want to select record from only a specific view? I can filter out. I can also filter down some more condition based, let's say workflow. So for example, any record which is only approved by someone or have a status equal to approved, have some value or something like that, more and more conditions can be put in like this. But for now, I'll say let's leave it as it is. I just want to link one record to one POID. Let's click create field. Now see what happens. As soon as I do, this new field is being created. And if I click on this, it doesn't have any entry option. I cannot enter any, but it says there's a plus button. So if I click on this plus button, what it does, it is going to list me all of these requirements. See, all requirements from this table are now available to connect this particular PO table. You can simply go here and say requirement number 10 and the requirement number 10 linked from this particular. See, this is requirement number 10 from Sharma and it's a high requirement. I can manually put it here approved. So that's how interlinking is possible. And if I click on this one for now, see what it does. It says this record is coming from this requirement table and the whole view requirement is available. So that easy, that is straightforward, we can interlink. And when I did this part, what happened actually? On the requirement table, you see there are two hidden fields, right? So there was a field automatically created by the system and the field is mentioned something here. It's called purchase order table. Automatically created. I did not. So if I say open this field or make it visible, see here, this PO mapping, the cross mapping also came from the other side. See this one. I did not added anything over here. I said map a requirement into a PO. And automatically the other way around working or the mapping also done on the requirement side. It says now PO number 1 is mapped next to this requirement number 10, right? If I click on this one, I get to see all the detail about this particular PO, right? Currently there's nothing in the PO field. This is only PO ID and the PO name is there. That's how. As soon as I put more and more things, it will be visible over here. So anyone who is looking into, let's say, either requirement table or the PO table, they'll be able to see how things are cross-mapped or how things are interconnected, right? Now, this is the first. Second is I wanted to see, so this is how we created the PO table. And we are anyways going to extend this PO table as well. Now, next to it, we build the purchase order table. Purchase order table is supposed to extend further more. But before that, we would like to create a vendor table as well. Because as soon as the requirement comes here, my procurement manager supposed to send an email to multiple vendors who are eligible to supply that particular goods or that particular service, right? Let's say monitor, keyboard, computer. What I can do, I can have a vendor table over here. Let's say start from scratch. And this is going to vendor table. Save. They're supposed to have only a basic few things. One is the vendor name. Second is the vendor email address. This could go to a single line text. It's fine. And further down, what kind of things they provide. So vendor category. Vendor. Instead of this, I could say again single select. Could have been multiple select as well. But at the same time, I will go simply put it what all things I wanted to get from this vendor. So is it hardware vendor? Is it computer accessories and so on? So I'll go here. I'll say whether this will supply me computer accessories or only hardware or the furniture or office supplies, whatever I had in my thing, can put everything over here. Or it's also going to size done. And rest everything what I can do, I already got a table with me. Let me pick it to save time. See, so I got 3 vendors for each of them. Hardware, I got 3 people. Software, I got 3 people. Sorry, computer series, furniture, and office, right? And I can also maintain their status, whether they are active or they are inactive. So I should not have sent a request to any inactive. Now let's save. Perfect. So we got our vendor table as well. And at the last, I could also have one finance approval table. So if in case any budget or any particular price goes beyond a certain level, I should have approvals also in place. So let's create one more table quickly. Finance, save, name, email. This can be single line like this. Along with this, I should have their approval limit. Here can be number, would go without 0. This is good. And here I can say who's the Growwstacks, and then there can be a approver called Sandeep. His rover dot and he's supposed to have limit of 100 and something else, right? So this is how we can have like what kind of limits and maybe some over here. So I could say long text and approver tolerance beyond text, something. Now super something very very important. See, so when my procurement manager get to see, okay, he got the requirement approved by the manager. Now he may want to search out who all are the vendors eligible to fulfill this, right? So based on this, what I can do, I can make that part also automated because I have all of the part available over here, like what items are required and so on. First of all, this person should decide what kind of budget we are going to allocate on. Budget means like how much this can cost. So I can put something here as a number and I'll say budget for this budget, or maybe target budget, some sort of amount, which obviously procurement manager can decide best, not a normal employee or operations manager. They don't have to do anything about the pricing part. So here I'll say enter manually. Budget supposed to be decided with some discussion or with a price list check person. Then further down, I could have a drop down or maybe a lookup field or link to other record with linking of vendor, and that to one to many. So let's see here where I say link to another record. Here I say link to vendor table, and what to link, I'll say available vendor or shortlisted vendors, and say allow linking multiple records. Create this. What happens as soon as the procurement manager come here, he'll say, okay, let me check who all are providing hardware or who are providing computer assets. So I'm going to request a quotation from Top Gear or this Tech Gear, and the second guy who's S3 have, right? This one. So only these two people supposed to submit their code. Now, along with this, I could one more condition. If you looked at this carefully, see what happened. It says allow linking multiple record. At the same time, filter records him by a condition. So what I can do, if I have a couple of vendors which are inactive, I could simply say this guy is inactive, maybe all of these are active and so on. So based on this, anyone who's inactive will not even appear. I go back here, choose this filter condition by filter by condition, add condition, vendor status is not equal to inactive. In this case, I'll not be able to select this particular vendor who is inactive. See, currently only one more vendor left, which is called Gadget World. So this is how Airtable can help us to filter down the data. We should not even erroneously send anything which someone who's inactive. So S3 Heaven is inactive person. So in this case, I got only two vendors. One is Tech Gear and second one is the Gadget World, right? Now, to make the life more easy and to make the workflow more effective, there is one more good thing available on the Airtable. While we link record, we have an option. Do we want to look up any value from these? What I can do is when I have, let's say, mapped all these people over here, why don't have their email addresses? So if I go back to this one, I'll say add a field, and there is something called lookup. Let's click on lookup field, and I can say shortlisted vendors email ID. And over here, it says, okay, what do you want to look up? Like obviously based upon any pre-configured link record, I can look up the particular records further down. So here I say select your lookup resource, or select your lookup source. So I said lookup source supposed to be my shortlisted vendor field, right? Then what field I'm trying to look based upon this particular table. So I said I am going to look out the vendor's name as well as email address, or maybe only the email address, because by default, whatever these mappings are, they are not the actual name based mapping, they are the record ID based. So if I'm trying to get, let's say, who these people are, Tech Gear and the Gadget World, it is going to give me this record ID like this, not the name of the Tech Gear or not the name of the Gadget World. But as soon as I do look up this information, see what I got, both of their email address separate by a comma, I got it. So this is how I can get more and more information from the connected tables. Now let me this third vendor as well as an active. And if I go back, it gives me S3 Heaven. And as soon as I do, see here, S3 Heaven is also available as one vendor. So all three email IDs are. Now, once we have this shortlisting done, I want my procurement manager to send email to all of them. Is it going to happen manually? Answer is no. The procurement manager supposed to select them and like either click on a button or change a normal basic status of one of the column and say send message to all the short. Let me show you how. So see here, if I can have a drop down which called single select, and here I'll say send email vendors, and here I can have one single say option which says send vendor shortlist, and let's click create this particular option or create this. Now if you click on this, what will happen? We can select this field or this, and this can help us, or this can work trigger one Airtable automation. And as soon as you select this on any record, what can happen? It can trigger a webhook URL on my NNN. It can get all the info this record, and then further down we can send email to. So let me do one thing. We have something called automation over here, and just try to understand. We are like getting into more and more. So first what we did, we shortlisted vendor. Based upon this, we got all of their email addresses directly linked over here. And then third is, we said we wanted to trigger an email to all of these people. So in that, I want to have some sort of automation on Airtable, which can help me trigger an automation on Anytime, maybe on a webhook. If I go, let's have a webhook configured here, because our flow is to start from the webhook call. Here is my hook, and I'll dash shortlist. I can give any name to my web on Anytime. I can make it a post call, click save, and here is, now I can go back here. I'm into automation, add a trigger, and this trigger will say whenever there is a particular record is being updated, and that too only a particular field. So either I can go with this one, which called when a record is being created or updated, and I can apply a condition as well. So let's try to build this automation inside Anytime, inside Airtable. And we are also going to take help GPT to write a short script which can help us to trigger and entire. So let's go with record. Now here it says which table you want to look at this record. So I'll say from the requirement table. Further down, what is condition? Condition is when, not requirement ID, when the send email to shortlist vendors is equal to send email, then going to trigger this. So let's go and say choose record blank. See here, record came, say choose record. Now here I say, once this trigger is met, there are multiple more things I can do. I can apply any condition logic, I can apply repeated group, and I can take further more send email, create a records, as well as see plenty of inbuilt what Ari was talking earlier. So these are automations. I'll show you the limitation as well. But see, Slack message can be sent, Gmail. What we are interested in, we wanted to send this data to a webhook, can take further more action inside. And so I'll say run a script over here. So I'll say run script. And here I could have my entire script being triggered or being. Now this can be free form script, and this script help us build this entire reach out, or let's say this particular data to be sent to Anytime. Now let's go here and let's have a look at, let's looking an Airtable send the following. See, so it created a small structure over here. It says let find this table, find this record ID. See here, let's take it, and what we have to define is called the record ID input variable. First of all, I'll have to, hook is already listed over here. Await record sings this, fine. This is supposed to be a record ID. Provide a record ID over here, and value can be selected as the Airtable record ID. Let's try to, because this is part of the, says like, okay, let record and variable name is here. Wait, I'll have to call member because I'm not very good. I think you need with the table. Okay, two things has to be provided. One is called table. I think you need to change record to table.get. Okay, so we have, see here, this webhook got, and what it got, only the record ID. That's fine. So in case if we can define, then could get things, but currently in the payload we are sending only the record ID. Here it is, right? I could have added more let's say attributes, maybe send a requisition ID. So this could have been like required, something like this. We can select requirement number requested. All the information can be taken from here as well, or this can be sent only one single record ID, and based on that we can do get record, and get record can let's say get all the information on the second. So now essentially this is, but let's try to select a record. Here is run the automatically, and okay, now we can copy this data to editor, and let's bring it back to Airtable. So see here, what we have is the record ID of that particular requisition. I can do Airtable and get complete good requisition table and record ID. Get execute this. See here, all of the data, number 10. And now see here, when we shortlisted vendor, we are getting all the email address like this, right? So even though we mapped vendor here 1, 3, 4, but still only their IDs are coming. And this actually help us a lot, like because we have this lookup field, so we mapped their like their respective email address. Now along with this, I could have also done, I would have not just vendor email ID, duplicate this field, and I would like to have vendor names, so I can send them a specific. So see here, the lookup source is shortlisted vendor, vendor email addresses, vendor name, and now we have Top Gear, Gadget World, and the SRE here. So even all of their names are also. This is how we can have a specific names or thing being. Now once this requirement is here, we would like to send email to all of them. But before that, since they are all coming into an array, you can see here it's an array. An array has 3 items, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, total 3 items. So we'll have to iterate them so we can send each of them a separate email. So I'll go here and I'll say, let's click on this Gmail, send an email. For that, there's a thing called out, iterate. So let's go here, iterate, and iterate is supposed to be done. If I execute this, it got us total 3 items. Table has take gear, gadget, and then these 3 items send out as in to these. Let me go back. Dear sir, this was the email format. So supplier in email, and this whole or to that particular. So now we copying called procurement inquiry. The ID can be like this. Further down, we can have a whole email body, which again would go all along the whole, all the elements, item name or respective category, requisition, urgent. So I'll say let's go with item over here. Then further down category, this one. Then we have, so all of these things again I'm telling is vendor and urgent high, and that's it. Now let me do one thing. Instead of to random in there, I would like to have your email address. Maybe I can map to, or maybe three of these, which I can find a table, and you guys can have emails. So if any of you three can provide me your email address, you will have a look at this there. Who else? So three things, right? Now let's give it a, what we are doing. As soon as the person says some procurement particular inquiry, let me all of these. Now, since we have vendor selected, vendor name and everything, as soon as we map any of these information from the first table, it will auto populate that particular, all of these. Same with PO value, finance approval, and so let's try to apply some logic. Let me refresh this. Since we added multiple of the field, see here, all the field started coming in. So now we have vendor selected. Let's go further down. The vendor which we selected over here is selected. Vendor name, email, category will automatically come from this table. So that's why these are the blocks. Then what is the PO value? So based upon my budget, I'm taking this PO value $8,000. Who's the finance approver? Yet to be decided. PO creation date, we don't know yet because we like yet to see the PO creation date, or let's say whenever the approval will happen. And the PO status currently, it'll be waiting for. Let me go create PO. And now, even before this, what I missed out is we have to decide to which finance approver this thing support. So let's click on this, and here we are going to get record, or let's say a finance approver selection based upon their approval limit. So since I have the PO value or the budget for that particular requirement, I can go and query in this particular table that if my budget is $8,000, who's the best approver? So obviously I'll do a listing based upon sorting or based upon their approval limit, sort it on the asset. And the condition is approval limit should be more than my budget requirement. So let's go back. I'll add one more stuff over here. I'll go to Airtable, say this, and say search record. What to search in the records? So let's go here. This one, finance approver. And here we can define the whole formula. See, this is how the formula is supposed to be written. So two brackets, then first thing into curly braces is equal to or greater than. So here I say, I'm going to build my whole formula like this. So I'll say if approval limit or whatever the amount approval limit of anyone is greater than equal to the amount that I'm asking, then I want that the person to be selected or to be coming out, right? See here, I said if the approval limit is greater than equal to this much, then I should get the person's name or the finance approver name. And I'm anyways going to query from the finance. So let's try to click on execute step. And here I should get both of them, Manish and see, it got 10,000, it got 100,000 as the approval limit. But since it says more than 8,000, all people are applicable. How to restrict it? I'll say return only one single record, and that to sort it based upon the approval limit, that to ascending, right? Now if I run one more time, I get to see only one person, Manish, and 10,000. But what if I make it 80,000 instead of 8,000? Remove from here. Let's give it a quick try. 80,000 and execute. See what happens. I'm getting, right, because he is available or eligible to approve anything beyond 10,000 up to 100,000. So this is how we can have our mappings done and a custom formula to pick up the finance approver. Not to like complicate so much between this, greater than this, less than this, and so on. It can be fairly straightforward. So here's it, search for approver, we get finance approver. So this step is going to help us. Now, once this is done, I have the finance approver record ID as well. See here, what I can do, I can go and within the create PO part, requirements this selected supplier coming here, then further down PO value, then down here finance approver, who's the approver, we can see approver ID here. Further down PO creation date. Currently, we don't have any PO creation date. It can be PO requested date, but not a creation. Now, if I click on this particular step, wow, required an array. Okay, some of you asked me how to apply inline. See what it says. Each of these mappings, wherever we have to map this requirement ID or any of the record IDs on the link another record field, it is asking it's supposed to be an array, but we are giving it only a norm. What you can do, whenever you map this entire stuff, at the end of this, you can put a dot, and as soon as you do that, all the functions will come along anytime. So I can say split, and even from make.com era, we know split return result into an array form. So I'll say split, obviously nothing to split as such, it's just blank, but with the simple split like this, it will return us into an array format. See, array look. So there is nothing to split as such, but we are just trying to make it an array. And if I try to execute this now, okay, finance approval also supposed to be an array. Let's here also the code more time. and see the entire PO is being created. So PO said is PO04, value is this, and let me go back to Airtable. Okay, this one. See, let's remove all of these records from these. This is what we request. So we said this is our requirement. PO number is 0004. Here is the requirement ID. Vendor selected is this. Vendor name, vendor email address, vendor category, PO value, the approver name, approver email address, and the PO creation date. And now it says waiting approve. Now, once I have this, I can send this entire PO to the finance for the approval. So I'll say get finance approver, create a PO, and further down I could go human in Gmail. Connection could have been anything. I'll go here and say to whom this is supposed to go, to the finance approver email. Subject line PO approval required dash, and this person's PO number, not the requisition, because he has the requisition ID, he has things for the PO. Right, now I go back and I'll say I would like to email to this we saw earlier. Dear, please review and approve the following PO number, amount, department, budget allocated, PO ID. So here PO ID. Further down, either this place, who's the department. Further down, I could have for the type, category. So everything with a here and done. Now, on the response, I can provide this person also a custom form where I say, you should make a decision and you should tell me why you make why the would have made, or I can approve or reject. Anything is, but this is a multiple free form. Let's say free form text, maybe approval, or so let's keep it a normal approval. Send for approval. Now, based upon this decision, but let's give collected. If I run the, see here, everything is gone. This it was here it is. So this is how I got it. It says purchase order approve request. Dear fan, like this, $8,000 laptop, medium, and obviously this could have been some validation, not zero quantity approve, and that's it. Approval is done. So I don't have to do anything. It's all done. Now let's see execution. Okay, see this. Now it was earlier waiting. It is got. Let's refresh, and once that part is done, to update this table and send out an email. See this. If I click on this, it says approved is equal to, right. Copy this to editor and in the data this here. Now I can make a decision over here again. If this approve is equal to true, or I could have said like boolean. Boolean can simply say, so this is how we can make it both the way. If it is true, I'm going to release this order and the PO will look like this. Purchase order request to office. So let me go back to grab email supplier. So to whom is supposed to go, should go, we selected. So create PO is here. Then further down, we can have new purchase order request. Then for the message body, which says what is the PO number, what is the value, furthermore fully being formatted here. So here is first of all the PO ID, then further itself, then here also, right? So this is how we mapped everything. Now I can disconnect. If the PO is updated, also go to Airtable. So here system purchase order table ID create PO is here, and I can simply match status as PO creation date from now. Okay, whenever you're trying to write any formula, any variable inside, always ensure that it is fixed. Then go here, and as soon as I do, can get to all the expression. You just type in two curly braces start and your plus dot, I'll say format and DDM POS, and obviously finance approval. And in case PO is being rejected, it can go another email and say, okay, sorry, your PO is being rejected. Finance approver, it's not supposed to go this to the operation manager or to the end request. So until this point, these three options we have done, and the fourth one which we're going to do will be when the person is going to send us an invoice. The vendor is going. Okay, Sandeep, did you get a purchase order? It says I was trying to build a quick sheet over here, like so you can understand how this entire system is supposed to work and who is having what kind of role, right? And maybe their emails as well. I hope you can see this. Let me zoom in. So let's say requester can be anyone who fill the form or who has the form, right? Then like for our role play, or let's say for this entire experience, I can define something. Let's say Sandeep Rover can be operation manager. I can be the procurement manager, or maybe someone else. Then there is a finance approver, which can be Deepak under 10,000. Abhishek can be a finance approver for more than, let's say 10,000 kind of a thing. And then what else we had here until yesterday? PO to supplier. Supplier is the person who's actually going to get it. So they do not have any role. Send to finance approver, get finance approval. I think that's it.
But they would also send email, right? I don't know. They don't have email to send. Yeah, they have the option here. They have to send. No.
They get the PO and they can submit the invoices. Now, submission of invoice can be done in two ways. It can be sent via an email, or we can provide some sort of a portal to them. So on portal, they can submit all the details and they can fill or maybe upload the invoice file. So many companies follow that, including Barclays, where I used to work. So they also had the vendor portal. Each vendor can go log in against PO, invoice number, couple of basic details, and it can go as soon as you submit, it can land on a webhook. right? Kind of form submission, right? So it can be done option one, or maybe option one is the email, the invoice, or option two can be upload on the portal, maybe vendor portal, invoice portal, you can name it anything. But essentially, this is how vendor can payable team on the AP team who will supposed to make payment of this invoice, right? So he supposed to reconcile things and making. So he'll say reconcile the invoice with PO and make payments. And this is his job. Now, all along with this, so these are the basic things what someone's supposed to follow. And we already built the flow yesterday. We discussed a couple of things, right? It's starting from whenever someone has a requirement to submit, the requirement goes to operations manager. Confirmation will be being sent to this requester. Operation manager gets it for the approval. Then it's going to wait unless until the operation manager respond to it, right? Then further down, if they approve or reject, in both the cases, requester is supposed to get notified that, okay, your request was successfully approved or rejected and it's moving towards the next step. If it is moving next, it's going to update things that operation manager approved this particular purchase requirement. Rejected means it's rejected. And then it's going to send that particular request number, couple of more information to the procurement team, right? Once it get to procurement team, there a small manual process gets in. What is the manual process? So this guy who's here on the procurement team, he's supposed to look at this particular requisition. When I say, let's say requisition 11 or requisition 10. Now this is for a laptop, computer accessory, urgently needed, 5 pieces are here. Then he can go and figure out who all vendors are available for this particular requirement or for this fulfillment. And so I can click here and I can figure out I wanted to send out request to maybe these two vendors, Gadget World or the Accessory Heaven. He may also choose or he may exclude anything as per his own choice, because I don't want to send emails maybe if I have 10 vendors for each of these things. I may not want to send everything for all 10 vendors. So this process could have been automated of the vendor shortlisting and the vendor selection, but for now we are keeping it manual. Otherwise, our simple, let's say AI can go figure out what all vendors are there, who's keep on fulfilling order, and then who's the like having a good volume. Maybe vendor table can have multiple more fields over here. So let's say currently we have only vendor status, but I can also put what is the vendor rating, right? So rating can be a 1 out of like 10 or something like this, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. This could also have vendor order size. Then it could have what geography or location this vendor deliver things, right? So based upon those parameter, I can choose a right vendor. So let's say, for example, just to make it a little more comprehensive, for example, I'll say single select or maybe multiple select, and here I can say service locations, right? And in this case, let's say if I have my office in Delhi, Mumbai, then further down Chennai, and maybe Kolkata, right? Let's say these 4 metro cities. Now this vendor is delivering things only in Delhi and Mumbai, right? So if any requisition coming from this person who's sitting in Mumbai office, he'll have to mention like which location he want this delivery to be done. So in this requirement table also, we'll have to have one more field where I say which location this material is supposed to be delivered. And this vendor will be taken up based upon the service location. Similarly, I can go with a number field and say minimum order value, right? And for each vendor, this could have been, let's say, let me put it 0, create field. This vendor is taking minimum order of $1,000. This is taking for, let's say, $5,000, maybe $10,000, and so on, right? So these can become more selective fields before we choose, and AI can recommend, or maybe a basic formula level things can recommend these vendors supposed to be reached out. So when I go to the requirement table, instead of me selecting as a procurement manager, either I can go and say, okay, let me pick up these 2 vendors, it's fine, and send them an email. Or I could have said, let AI system decide to whom based upon conditions, or automation decide to whom on the condition, and it can go through. Now, after this, once these vendor will respond to my request via email, via some sort of submission, I can even watch those emails which are coming in. So for example, when we are sending them emails, if you look at here, I think yesterday we had some, okay, maybe not this way. Let's go here on the sendbox. See here, it was procurement inquiry, requisition 1, right? Or requisition 15, new requirement for, okay, not this one, not even the PO, this one only. So let's say, for example, this was a speedy.supply. This is a vendor called speedy supply at example.com. And we said we have a new requirement for Dell laptops. 10 units are required. It's a high urgency item and so on. Now, what we are asking this vendor, do you have availability? Yes, no. And what the price you want to quote for each unit as well as the total cost. So if this vendor is going to reply only on this email, he'll say, okay, yes, I can fulfill this for 50,000 rupees each unit, or total 5 lakh rupees of the order size. Now, based on this, AI can watch inbound emails which are being replied upon the same thread, requisition 1. It can read against which requirement all of these submissions are coming in, right? And it can even feed them into a table like this. So for example, if I go here, I can add one more table where I say it's going to be vendor quotation table or vendor quotation table, right? Something like this. Here I can say, obviously everyone should be mapped. So I'll say vendor name. Let me delete all of these instead of rewriting them. Let's take everything up. Perfect. Then I'll say vendor email. Okay, email is here. Then further down, I'll say what is the requisition number in which they are replying. So this is going to be linked record field. Linked record means it's going to be linking from that particular record from the requirement table. So here I can say link it from requirement table, and I'll say REQ number. So I can easily correlate or map that, okay, on which request this vendor is being replying. Then furthermore, I could have a single select where vendor says availability, whether something is available, yes or no, right? So I can capture the responses. And next time, if there is an audit comes in or someone asks me like, why did you approve this particular vendor? I could say other vendor said me they don't have this available, right? So against each of the requisition, I can have multiple vendors responses coming in, and they all can be captured here. Then I'll put something more down here, not order number, it's supposed to be a number. And this could be unit price, which is a number over here. Let's put the 0, and I'll say one more time number and total amount, total bid amount or total agreed amount or something like this, total bid amount, what this vendor is going to quote for me, excluding taxes, because taxes are that everyone will be on the same page for tax, excluding tax, right? Now, this way, I could easily compare which vendor is quoting what kind of price, and I can also have a complete system track away. But for now, we are not moving this here, because we'll say, let this person review all the inbound responses and let him choose. So within this requirement table, when we say we got multiple vendors selected over here, then this guy is going to select manually which vendor to go with. So I can say, okay, go with tech gear here as well, right? Otherwise, this could have been done with the system as well. But currently it's a manual step. Now, as soon as you do that, there will be a PO raised. So I'll say, okay, this is selected, and simply go here, run the PO automation. Now this vendor is going to get a purchase order with all of these information and say, okay, here is your PO, please supply this material to us, and other things will happen. Now, once PO goes out, so before PO is even getting out, this email or this PO will also go for finance approver. And finance approver over here can be all of these people. These can also be segmented by various departments or by teams or by location as well. So finance approver who is responsible only for the sales department, only for the marketing department, or maybe someone in the, should it go to headquarters? Should it stay for some sort of regional office or something like this, right? So it can also be more and more comprehensive. And all of these things should relate back to this requirement table, to the employee, to the organization structure, right? To build this level of complexity, first we should have a clear org structure, clear rules to be defined, and then the whole system can come to life. So like it can go further, more and more complex. Essentially, yes, this is how we can have more and more and more complexities being added to this entire system, right? Now, let me try to show you something quickly, one of the Airtable feature, and then we'll keep on building this furthermore. So see here, yesterday, let me put some pricing as well. Let's say 10,000 over here. And maybe I'll say I'm manually putting this as a PO created and also PO created like this, right? Now, for example, let's say I'm the approver for these many things, 1, 2, 3, 4. And let me try to put it as not 10,000, as a 50,000 value. I'm just putting it to showcase you. And this is supposed to go to another approver, which is Sandeep, right? Now, if in case of Airtable, I want to see for each finance approver, how much value of goods or how much value of request they approved, right? So currently it's an interlinked table where I have all the value as well as their mappings. Now, if I go back to finance approver, you see here, this got like PO 4 and 5 approved by Manish, 6 was approved by Sandeep. I can add one more column over here, and based upon this mapping, I can pick value of the desired field from the particular table, which has got interlinked over here, right? So I'll say if I add one more column here, that is nothing but something called rollup, right? Rollup, what it does is going to summarize data from a link record, and that also can be applied like some sort of mathematics and calculations and all. So if I say let's click on this, and I'll say value approved for both of these people, and say purchase order table is here. Let's go down to this. Let's go to create field, invalid formula. Please check the formula. Okay, 1 second. Why it's saying invalid formula for the rollup? Rollup supposed to come from here itself. Find a field. It's okay. Give me once. Let me see. Purchase order value is here, and these two people are mapped over here. It should work. Maybe I'll have to add lookup first. So I'll go with lookup, and I'll say let me bring in the PO value here. The PO value. Let's create this, and further down, roll up. It's a little strange. Invalid configuration. Why it's not even getting this? Oh, sorry, I zoomed in a little bit. Sorry, it was a zoom in issue. We don't have to bring in this. That's fine. Then I can go here, roll up, and here I can say value approved. It's a little zoom out. That's fine. I couldn't see this field. And here further down, I'll say PO value, right? And then I want to sum all the values of the purchase order which are connected over here, right? So this simple way, create field and see, it got 18,000 total value, 50,000 total value, which is coming from this PO table, right? So other way around, I could see this like how much value they approved. Now there can be cases that these people rejected as well. So like rejected some PO values as well. So if I go here and I'll say, I just want to pick only selected record which meet a certain condition, right? So for example, if I go here and I'll say, okay, actually it's zoomed in, you go here and I'll say, what is the PO status? Should be PO created, right? This way is going to have only the approved PO, but there are chances PO are also rejected. So let me duplicate this field quickly and I'll say value rejected by each of these approvers. And next time, any of my people will also know, let's say how much value is being rejected, to which approver should go and not go. Let's choose this. Currently it's all 0, 0, 0, right? But if I go back here to the PO table and I'll say one of the PO was rejected by Manish. So instead of approval, it was got rejected, and go back to finance approver. See here, 8, 10, 50, 0. Maybe I could add one more field over here. How much value is waiting for this? So like these are multiple things, right? We don't have to do everything, but essentially this is one thing. Same way, when we're going to create this vendor table, we can always say which vendor fulfilled how much price of orders until this date. And since all the PO are being created over here, so we can easily go and map, okay, this vendor is fulfilling most of the request, or let's say how much PO are open for this particular person. We can always bring that value from here. So this is how interconnectivity of table, and it is only one example. You can do sum, you can do count, you can even have values coming in by comma separation, and we can do plenty of more things with the help of formula, with the inline function. Any type of data modeling can be done. But I hope you got the idea of this, right? So more and more control on the whole system with the help of Airtable. And this is why we pay for Airtable. And I'll try to showcase you one of the example of Monday.com as well. There is a client with us. It's called Contour Education. They are having more than 400 active scenarios, and everything is happening. The entire operating system is working on Monday.com, similar to Airtable, as like both in the same equivalent applications. But entire ops or the ops management is working on Monday.com. Everything like these kind of interconnected tables, you change something here, many things get changed furthermore down the line, and their entire operations work seamlessly. So one of the example I'll showcase you, we are building a very small system, but more and more complex systems can be built right here. Okay, so until this point where we had all of these things, we discussed, we are sending this PO out to this person. And yesterday what I forgot is in the PO table, we had something called PO creation date. It's not a PO creation date, actually it was a record creation date. Instead, there's supposed to be a date called PO issue date, because there can be a time difference between when PO was requested and PO was actually approved, right? So PO issue date will be a matter, or will be an important thing. So I'll add one more column here. It's supposed to be date column, and I'll say PO issue date. It can be something like this, having a proper date time. And this was PO creation date, instead PO request date, right? So this could have a similar thing like, right? So now essentially our PO table has PO ID, requirement ID, vendor selection, which is being selected manually, vendor name, email address, category, PO value, which was decided by the procurement manager, what budget they are going to allocate, who's the approver, approver name, email, the PO request date, and at the same time, finally, the PO got rejected, created, it's waiting for approval, so and so, and which date PO was issued. Once the PO will be issued, it will go to the vendor, like through this email. So it says PO email to the supplier, and say, okay, there is a new purchase order coming in from Growwstacks. Now, after the person gets a purchase order, he will fulfill his requirement, like the material being supplied or the service being supplied, obviously via offline methods or via some other method. So this guy will fulfill everything, and he may send things back to us and say, okay, now I did this whole fulfillment. Here is my good receipt note, like GR note or some sort of acknowledgement, as well as here is my invoice, which you're supposed to pay, right? So maybe in middle of this, we can have one more confirmation going out to the requester, whether you received the service, yes or no, and accordingly, it can be marked somewhere here next to this PO that services received, check mark done, or maybe on the PO table, service received, check mark done. And then this person supposed to send us the invoice. The vendor supposed to send us the invoice. Now, how they can send invoice to us, we already discussed. Either they can send us via email or they can upload this on a portal. Either ways, right? If they're sending on email, we have to scan emails. We have to click on like watch email, figure out maybe some invoice has invoice number, PO reference, or maybe invoice attachment, and that has to be scanned and run through. If they are uploading on portal, that's a way more better approach because we can capture all the details without hustling around here and there. So in this case, what I did actually, I went to Claude and I asked it, can you help me to create a invoice submission portal, something like this, right? So Claude created, it says Growwstacks invoice supplier invoice portal, submit an invoice, and you can also check the status. So if they submit invoice, they'll have to put invoice number, the PO number, which they're supposed to mention on the invoice, invoice amount, maybe in terms of dollars or something, invoice date, and they can upload a copy of this invoice. And this can be delivered on your webhook, maybe on form submission via Anatan or this kind of a good looking form. At the same time, we have second thing. Do they want to check status of this invoice? Answer can be yes, no. And if they put the invoice number, they can click here. Our webhook can trigger. It can go to this particular invoice table within the system, and it can bring the status of invoice, whether it is under review with finance approver, it is being processed with procurement manager, for operations manager, or with the finance approver or accounts payable team. And this can be rolled back to the system, to the person that your invoice is at this place and so on. So this is how we can have a quick portal, or email can also work out. Now let's try with both the approaches. But before that, we have to create a table to capture all the invoice related details, right? So now let's create a table for invoice management. So I'll go here and let's have something called from scratch invoice table, right? Or invoice management table, something like this. Let me remove all the columns from here. And here I'll start with invoice ID or invoice number, right? Maybe invoice number can be a good thing, which is going to be alphanumeric thing, a string. Then further down, I could have which PO it is interlinked with. So I can simply have a linked field. Now, how I'm going to get linked field information? The PO number is supposed to be mentioned into the invoice, so I can recognize yes, this invoice is coming for any of the purchase order. And once I get the purchase order, I'm going to have a look into this purchase order table, which PO number it's getting matched with this. And based on this, I will get the record ID from there. And that record ID can be mapped as an interlink record within this particular invoice table. So here I'll say I wanted to pick this value from PO table itself. So I'll say PO ID or PO number or something. Allow linking multiple record? No. So one invoice supposed to have only reference to one PO. Let's click create. That's done. Then further down, we will have who's the vendor. So here also, I'm going to use this interlinked vendor record. So based upon the vendor email ID, maybe vendor ID, vendor name or something, I'm going to search that into the vendor table and we'll figure out which vendor is this. So I can link their record, and linking has the benefit. You already saw how we can do this roll up. Same way we can do any sort of custom reporting. We can have any data manipulation played around here and there. So records are best when they are interlinked. It becomes like a whole interconnected database, right? Otherwise, if they are fragmented here and there, the values can go completely misaligned or maybe like non-standardized, and it will be really difficult for you to build any report later on. So that's why we are focusing more and more on the interlinking of records. So I'll go here and I'll say vendor table should be picked up. And here I can simply say vendor name. Not multiple, a single record supposed to get in, right? Now, apart from this, I can add a couple of more stuff. So I'll say a date column, which should have invoice date. Could have been something like this. Time doesn't require, so I'll skip that. Then I could have invoice amount, so it can be a number. Either it can be a number, or I can also go with a currency. So Airtable, by the way, got a currency field as well. So we go currency, we can put a symbol, we can put like any sort of decimal place and all. For now, to make it easy, I'll go with a normal number field. Now here I can say invoice total amount, and preset should be done. Create a field like this. Further down, I could also break this down into tax amount and the net value of things. So maybe tax amount here. Maybe let's skip this for now. I think taxation or these things will become more and more complex. Then further down, I could have invoice status. So this is going to be a single select where I'll say invoice status, and this could have multiple status. So it can be like received and it's supposed to be processed, right? So invoice is in pending state. Then it could have gone for it's supposed to go to procurement manager, then to finance guy, and then finance guy is going to approve it against the PO, right? So I could either add multiple status, or I can say just pending, pending with procurement, pending with finance, and maybe pending with finance approver. If it is more than a particular value, accounts payable team, procurement team, and further down, maybe it's on hold. For some reason, we would have hold this invoice. And last, if everything goes good, it is scheduled for payment or it's already paid, something like this, right? Maybe we can also have something for dispute as well, which is supposed to be like sent to vendor, and then vendor should clarify the dispute. But essentially, these can be multiple different type of structure, right? So for wherever it's waiting, it can move step by step with procurement team, finance team, accounts payable, and so on. Let's click create on this, and let's try to make it a little bigger so all these status can be picked up. Perfect. Now, apart from this, at last, we could have maybe some sort of extra notes or something else which could have been put in. Anything comes to your mind, please let me know. I think invoice value, number, date is all good, right? Who's the provider? Maybe taxation amounts or a couple of other things. But I think that's what come to my mind at this point. We could even segment it by the items or something else, but PO matching will simply clarify this. So which PO is supposed to come up and all. So I think not a big deal as such. Okay. PO ID will have requisition number as well and the vendor as well. Okay. I think that's sorted. So with the help of PO, we can get all of the other information which are interconnected within PO table. So it can be easily figured out. Now, one important thing, when we connected this PO over here, see, I connected this invoice table. I took interlink field of PO table, vendor table, these two things. Automatically, Airtable will create a reverse column or the mirror column on those tables. So if I go to the PO table over here, see what happens at the last. There are hidden field at the bottom. It says there is an invoice table field. And whatever invoices mapped to this particular PO, they will all reflect over here, right? Same way, if I go to vendor table, there's supposed to be a invoice table thing is coming here, right? So now in this case, all the invoices which are available for this particular vendor, which are mapped into this invoice table, like wherever the vendor is mapped, they will also reverse go over here on the other way around, right? So it's a two-way mapping for each of, or two-way reflection of each of these fields. You can obviously remove that if you don't want it, but good to have it, right? Now, there can be a challenge, which I showed you last time. Yesterday also I discussed about. For example, if you have a PO raised or a PO value, a PO where you're trying to order total 10 quantity, and the amount or total value of this PO is 10,000, for example, right? Now, what vendor did? Vendor supplied a couple of things. Vendor supplied you in batches. So let's say batches are batch 1, batch 2, batch 3, batch 4, and so on. So now what vendor did? Vendor said, I'm going to fulfill this requirement into maybe 3 or 4 or 5 parts, something like that, right? Now, what he did, he provided a couple of quantity over here. So quantity and the amount. And this may be supposed to be some sort of a laptop or something, right? This could have been, let's say, 10,000 value. What vendor did? He provided 2 quantity. And while he was doing that, the value got increased or the laptop price got increased, right? Which is done, let's say, after a month or something. So these laptop, which supposed to cost only 2,000, is now costing, let's say, 3,000 rupees, right? Which is agreed by finance and all. But still, they said, okay, let's do it, kind of. Then further 2 laptops came. They were costing approximately 3,500 rupees. Further 2 laptops came and they were costing, let's say, about 2,500 and so on. Now, what will happen? After having 6 laptops here, you already spent 9,000 rupees of value from this particular purchase order. This is the 9K where the total PO was only 10K. When this vendor is providing last 4 laptops, he said, I'm going to give you maybe for 4,000, whatever. But by this time, your PO is keep on depleting the value. So initially, after this 3,000 bill, it remained only 7,000. Then further down, only 3,500. Then further down, only 1,000 rupees remains over here. And we have to clear a bill of 4,000, right? So in this case, when this fourth bill comes in, there will be a mismatch, and we'll always have to check whether the whole PO value can accommodate any of these coming bills or not. So by default, the invoice will go because everything is good. Maybe people can check, they can provide some exception approval, all good. But at least this PO will be exhausted soon. And at this point, the company will not be in a position to take extra liability because the PO was 10,000. The total budget allocated for 10,000, already exhausted 9,000, 1,000 remains, and we have to pay a 4,000 rupees bill, right? So now in such cases, we should always first check whether the invoice amount which is coming in and the PO value which is available are equal, or PO should be higher than that, and then only invoice can be processed, right? So this is how like one more important concept comes. You just don't have to verify the invoice or the right PO number, but at the same time, you should also verify whether this PO has any positive value to pay this invoice or not. If not, then it's supposed to be escalated to finance approver or to someone that there is no value remained in the PO. We have to make some payment to this vendor. So please allow us some extra budget. And this PO value is supposed to be changed to then maybe 13,000 like this, right? So there will be an additional PO of 3,000, like one more PO supposed to be raised, or this PO value is supposed to be returned to 13,000 instead of 10,000, right? So again, it will follow through one more full process of approval for adjustment of values in the PO. And that's a critical matter, by the way, because many of the companies, it's not just 10,000. Again, this PO discrepancy or this PO adjustment is supposed to go through the entire approval process, because many a time it's not this 10,000 rupees or $10,000. The PO values can go for maybe, let's say, $100,000, $1 million, $5 million, and so on. And any discrepancy of maybe $100,000 would make a lot of difference, right? So in those cases, the cost control or the whole financial control supposed to be in the right way. And that's how like exception supposed to be managed in a well manner. When I say we have to check this PO value, if I go here on the system, since I'm processing invoices, let's say, for example, here, I'm just putting one invoice, then obviously we'll do it with an automation way as well. There is invoice one, could have been some date, let's say tomorrow's date. There can be a PO ID, which is PO number 4. Vendor could have been this tech gear, and the total PO value or invoice value can be, let's say, 5,000, for example. If I go back to this PO table, see what happens. This invoice got listed next to this PO. This PO has total value of 8,000, and here I got an invoice which has value of total, invoice number 1. With the help of lookup columns, I can add a couple of more field, or I can pick the invoice value. So I'll say invoice value, and I could have either mapped it directly from the invoice table, something like this. Where is the invoice total amount? And this way, if it is only one single invoice. And I can do basic mathematics like PO value minus invoice value could have been, let's say, a number, let's say balance PO value, or it could have been like a PO value or a remaining PO value or something like this. You can name it, and sorry, not a number. It's supposed to be a formula. So here it goes, and I'll say it should be PO value minus the invoice value, right? Done, and it's supposed to tell me 3,000, 10,000, and 50,000, right? This is one way of doing it. In case if I'm expecting more invoices, or let's say the next invoice is supposed to check whether this balance PO value is a positive value, it's a negative value, or it's a 0. And accordingly, it can even indicate that, okay, this invoice cannot be processed because PO doesn't have any value. So even within this status over here, we're supposed to go and add one more thing called PO value exhausted, something like this. So PO value exhausted, and this invoice cannot be processed, or this requires some sort of approval or some additional things, right? So first, whenever we receive any invoice, we should always check whether PO has any value or not to accommodate or process it. Now, this was a simple case where we are just doing 1 or 2 invoices. But what if we have multiple of them? So in that case, instead of this PO value as a lookup column, I will go and change this to a rollup column. So I'll say rollup, and this way I'll say invoice table, choose a field of invoice total amount, some values, and say confirm change, done. This is still 5,000, but for example, if I get a next invoice on the same PO, copy and paste all the details over here, this becomes invoice number 2, and I could have a value of 1,000 more, right? Now it becomes 6,000 straight up, and the PO value remains only 2,000 further down. So we are going to add this step as well, where we'll say if my PO has any remaining value after processing all these invoices, then only it's supposed to accommodate. Otherwise, invoice should say PO exhausted, and you have to revise it or maybe send something else and so on. So this is also one of the important steps while we are trying to build these kind of system. So I think now it's high time. Let's get into the automation building.
I thought it could be some simple looping that email did not go, just loop it and send email again. But you're creating a completely different something. So if the email does not go ahead from approval side, you could set up a loop and say again send the email or something like that after a certain time. Or that's
So we'll have to have some comparison, right? We have to refine some rules. For example,
okay.
if send a reminder every 24 hours or after 24, 48, 72 hours, and then you may escalate to the manager of this person, right? So if he's available,
Okay.
he's on leave or maybe not available or something else, then it should go to his next hierarchy. To how to escalate to the operations head or someone, right?
Okay.
In those cases, we have to manage this table and the whole rule-based thing, right? So in this case, we'll go here and we'll say Airtable. Right here itself, we'll say search records and what to search, anything which is waiting for this operation manager approval. So here's the requirement table, and I'll say filter by where's the field name is here, requirement status, right? So I'll go here and see this is how we write formula. So there are supposed to be two square like round bracket, and then the field name within these curly braces equal to, you can put a certain name and things. So I'll go here and I'll say this is first bracket, say requirement status is equal to, and this is supposed to be waiting for operation manager, right? I can also put AND condition. So I could have two combinations together. Let me check how to put this AND formula, or maybe I can ask quick GPT to create a formula for me. I have following two fields in my Airtable. One is called requirement status and second is the last updated date. Help me build a formula for search record with both condition updated, whatever last updated is greater than equal to 24 hours, and I'm building this in N8N. So with this kind of prompt, you can have some formula, some guidance coming out. See here. So AND formula with this first state, and here we said time difference now minus last into hours, and this should be like more than 24 hours. So let me go here and let's check whether this formula is working or not. So until this point, we have our first condition, what this said. Okay, so we have requirement status like this. It's all there. Waiting for operation manager, state should be like this. And second is now minus. So now supposed to be a proper now. And then further down, we have last updated, which is last updated date. Okay, last updated time is the always be sure about these field name. That's very, very important. Hours is 24. Time difference. Okay, this will be calculated by the system. Let's see how it goes. So currently it is not 24 hours. Let me try. It was 15th. What is today's date? 16th or 15th? Guys, okay,
Today
it's
16.
perfect. So I think 24, not 24 hours gone, at least maybe I'll say 12 hours gone. So it should take something from here. And let's see. Oh, my bad. Your formula filtering is invalid. Error for please check your formula text. Okay, time difference is fine. Last updated time into hours greater than 12 hours. Maybe let's do one thing. Let's try to pick only this first condition. Second, we can compare within N8N itself, like anything was beyond 12 hours or 24 hours. Waiting for operation manager. Do we have anything on waiting for operation manager? Nothing. Let me pass this one. Waiting for operation manager. Let's try to bring that record. Okay, so this record came. A requester is Sushma, requirement number 12, right? And this will get us the date over here, which says last updated time, right? So that's where we can have a comparison of this. Once we get all these records, we can have this thing coming out. Ascending, descending is fine. Further more options. Okay. And once we have everything sorted, let's say if multiple items are here, for example, let's say even this one is waiting for approval, this one is waiting for approval, we are going to get multiple of them. based upon their last update time. So couple of hours 16, couple of hours 15, and so on. Now, if I go and run this, I can do a comparison of the, let's say, filter-based comparison. If something is more than 24 hours, less than 24 hours, the flow control can be there. And based on this, value is, let's say, I'll have to provide a formula now minus 24 hours, and this should work. So let's say if the date over here is earlier than or is before, supposed to have one of the expression now dot format ydm. This is fine. This should also include time. Okay. And further down, I should deduct or differentiate. Let me take a help of GPT only because I'm not sure how to differentiate this time, but okay, it's supposed to go with a long formula. But yeah, essentially, I'll try to get this formula as well. But essentially, once we say, okay, it's true, both the condition get fulfilled, we are going to send another email to this guy, whoever supposed to approve this. And we already have this approval part over here, like who is going to approve from the operation manager side. So, okay, along with this approver table, this may be a finance approver. I could have added a couple of more people and one status over here. Let's say single select approver type. So instead of having this person as only finance approver, this could have been it's a finance approver, or this could have been an ops approver, and maybe something called ops escalation and finance escalation, right? So in these cases, these people can have a specific role, and instead of keeping this table only for finance people, it can be approver master. All the approvers can come together over here. So in that case, I can pick up a value of this person. Let's say over here, send an email to Gmail, and I'll say, while creating this requisition, we should also map the operation manager or operation approver at the start point. So requester's email, along with this, I should have something over here, urgency, status, everything is good. Let's go a little down, requisition status, add one more column to left, which says a link field and to which person they're supposed to go. So not finance approver, just details ops approver, and only people who are eligible for the status called ops approver, they're supposed to come here, right? So click on create field and we can choose any of these people. By default, there can be someone. Later on, we can add more and more people. So let's say this guy now becomes ops approver. And if I go back here, I could have name of Sandeep Roar, right? So these people can add in, and obviously their emails can also be added as a lookup field. So approver email, and accordingly, this whole thing can go to this person for all the approvals. So system is getting more and more and more complex and more interconnected. And the email can go to this guy, whoever wanted to pitch in. So let me remove this if condition for now. Let's have a direct. For example, I had to compare two conditions here. One is waiting for operation manager approval, and second, I have like from which time it is still waiting. So what I can do, a combination of two things. I can put a formula here as well. And I'll say instead of building that complex formula, or let's say this complex code inside N10, I'll go here and I'll say reminder required, maybe, or reminder status or something like this, right? And then further down, I could have gone here, put a formula with the help of AI or directly, where I can compare whether this last updated time, this one, is past 24 hours, more than 24 hours, and at the same time, whether the status is still equal to waiting for operation manager, right? So in this case, the system will tell me, yes, these fields require reminder. So instead of me calculating things over here, I can simply say, not this system, not this requirement status, but I would go with reminder status or reminder required. And this column could have been equal to, yes, reminder is required for this person, right? So this could go, and then I can easily go back to Airtable in case I want to create a quick view or something for operation manager. And I may ask, you have 15 things which are waiting for your approval from last 24 hours or more than 24 hours. That person have visualization, okay, this much load is still waiting for me to run through. But that will happen only if I have the tracking here within the system. Okay, so this is the thing here. Now, the first part until this procurement manager things goes here. And again, I'm telling you, the process will vary through multiple organization level things. So all depends when a person a person has to be reminded, where to be reminded, at what time. At the same time, how do you want to track it? Do you want to give them interface? Maybe second reminder, third reminder, on which platform? Everything is fully dependent. In case we're talking about human in loop, these many are options available. So you can send it to Discord, Gmail, Google Chat, almost every other channel is available for instant messaging until Slack, Telegram, and WhatsApp, right? So these many things can be connected very well, and any of these platform can have things out, right? Even people can respond to chat as well on the chat box of Anytime itself. So plenty of options are there. We can configure it or we can mold it as per our own requirement. Second is, as I said, this is also getting into supplier shortlisting. So wherever we have suppliers being notified, they can also be reminded, like we are still waiting for your quotation or your response after a day, 2 days, 3 days time, and they're supposed to get back with the quotation. This is a manual process after this point. Supplier has to be shortlisted. Once they give you quotations, we say, okay, now we are ready for the PO, and this PO is supposed to be sent out. So it should not be a send email. Create PO and send for approval. And it's going to happen always, like your organization, any client, the two clients will not have the same requirement. They may say, okay, can you do this? Can you do that way? Or change some things here and there. But essentially, we have this base idea. Now, once someone is going to respond and that person wanted to connect, like submit their invoice. So let's try getting a couple of invoices. Let me see. Or if you can ask Claude, can you guys help me with this? It'll be super, super good. We can create a couple of purchase orders, and I would like if you can create some invoices with the help of Claude or with the GPT, get it into a HTML format and ask him to mention some PO number which you receive on your end or maybe through the system. So first, let's have a couple of purchase orders created. Here we got multiple requisitions, and let me also change it back to not ops approver to finance approver. A requisition table is fine. Let's establish a couple of things. So over here, everything looks good. This should not be zero. I think wherever you put a zero quantity, I'm just putting 4, 5, 3, 2, whatever. And then operation manager approved. Let me make everything approved for now. So we can have multiple POs created. Done. And you have all of your emails. So I think Praveen, Abhishek, Chaitanya, Deepak, all of your POs or requisitions are here. I'll say everything looks good. Who's the last? Abhishek Sharma. That's fine. I can put some value to this. So here we are allocating a budget numbers. I could go and allocate a budget 10,000, 8,000, maybe 25,000, like maybe 250,000, fine, 2,000, 1,000, and replacing everything again. Perfect. This was rejected. Done. So all of these things supposed to go out. Now, as soon as I do, they will be sent out to multiple vendors, and I'm not going to follow the step because we already have it. Let's try to select a couple of vendors and send them out the purchase order. In case of vendor or let's say these people, I'll simply replace your email IDs with these vendors because you're not going to get this PO. Or maybe how would we do that? So at this point, when we say create PO flow, create PO, as soon as I change a status on the requisition table where I say run PO automation, it's supposed to run this automation and will create a purchase order. We'll send the purchase order for the finance approver. We'll create a PO record. Then further on, we'll send it for the like obviously finance approver. We'll get a finance approver, add them, send to them, PO to supplier, and PO status will be updated like this. So let's do one thing. Along with this, I'll also get notified the requester via email that your PO has been released or it's already in place. So you can get to see the PO number. I don't have to tell you all of you that which PO is created for what requisition. So PO notification to requester. Even though it's not required, but I'm just putting it because you will get to know like what you ordered or let's say what PO number is there. And accordingly, you can have a copy of this PO. Let me try. Or let's do one thing on this email. Hey guys, just 1 second. So I'm just going to add all the approvers themselves. Like anyone, see, I got this PO email. Says $8,000. Everything looks good. Approve. This should go further down at this point. Perfect. See here. So let's try to add a CC to the requester as well. Just wanted to give you the PO number. That's it. Whoever requested, they will get the PO. Like as soon as it goes to the supplier, accordingly, you will also get the same email that a new PO has been released or issued to you. And the email will look like this. So I'll go to this. See, PO, PO approval required. Supposed to refresh. Okay, one bad thing. This all is happening with couple's email. 15th November, it's fine. Guys, give me just 1 second. I'll change one of the email because this email I don't have any control at this point. It's supposed to go like a no reply dash their domain name, and it's an unmonitored inbox, so no one is going to look at that And generally, there is a note at the bottom that please don't reply to this email. If you have any concern, please reply to XYZ and so on. Let's click save. Let's do a quick run one more time. Perfect. Approve. Okay, approval is done. And let me see. So it's got went to Arib along with this. Perfect. And the sender should have been admin Growstacks. Perfect. See here. So it went to Sandeep Grover and Arib. It says Growstacks new purchase order, PO number 8. 8,000 is the value. And what they're looking for is the urgent needed laptop. Total number of items is 5. Right. So this is how you will also get it. Now let's try to run each and every PO that we have in place. And you will start getting all of your POs, right? So let's do this. I'll start it from here. Let's go and change the status to run PO. And same way, let's do quickly what every one of them. Okay, PO table, it's getting filled. So we got a couple of, I think this was, we were playing around with PO number 4, 5, 6, 7. That's fine. We can keep one of them, but rest the PO table is started filling in, right? So now it's waiting for the finance approver. Mostly it's me because of the value, I think, but some of them will go to Sandeep as well. Sandeep, you will receive 2 emails, 20,000 and 20,000 over here. Can you check if you have something? Okay, perfect. By the time I got multiple of these emails, this was already done. Number 9 for total $10,000. I'll approve it. Number 10 again for somewhat 8,000. It's approved. Number 12 approved. Number 13 approved. And guys, you'll start getting your respective purchase order. Whatever you requested yesterday, they'll start getting in. Oh, it's creating email, PO email error, supplier, vendor email. And what's the issue with this vendor email? Something bad. Sorry, guys. I think I should have picked up vendors as well. Currently, there were no vendors, and hence a couple of them missed out the vendor email. That's the reason. It's fine.
So this we have to do it manually on the Airtable
So
selection.
yes, vendor selection is supposed to be done manually because as they start. So each of these people who are, let's say, going for this vendor selection, sorry, for the vendor selection from the procurement side, they should select who's my preferred vendor for this fulfillment. And based upon the particular shortlisted vendor or selected vendor, it should go with that selected vendor. So this has to be done like as soon as they get any responses from the with the quotation, they'll have to choose the right vendor. So that's there. Contact there. So I'll have to choose the right vendor. And obviously I have to choose vendors to whom I'm going to send all these emails. So if I click on the send email, it will going to send email to all of these people, all of these vendors, which are being selected over here. And then based upon their quotations, I'm going to choose which one is the right for this requirement. So currently I'm randomly choosing any one of them instead of looking at what requirement is that. Too expensive, this was rejected. It's fine. Vendor selection goes here. Okay, guys, let me do one thing. I may have to rerun everything. I think there was some message happened because I did not update some table. Let me delete everything from here. Let's go back to requisition, and to this, I will rerun everything. So I'll say a couple of places, vendor is there. Run PO, and all along down to this, I want to create all of these purchase orders. And each of these POs supposed to be, see here, they started coming in. So 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 2, 3, 4. Okay. 2,50,000, 3,000. Why not these two? I'll have to look into request number 13 and request number 19. These two couldn't process for some reason. Let's see, what is the reason? Okay, there's an error to it. And BO started waiting for approvals.
Because I think you gave approval up to 1 lakh.
Okay, let's try. Requisition number 12. This passed. Okay, one sec. Let me see why this, first of all, this last module is getting us some error. Let's unpin, repin. Your invalid could not process PO, unknown field PO creation date. Okay, I changed the field name actually here. So it was earlier PO creation date, then we later changed it, refresh, and it was PO requested date. So this will directly come automatically. PO issue date will come as now. So it's supposed to be now over here. This is the PO request issue date when the PO is getting created. So I think for that reason, it was keep on getting error, but it is fixed now. Click save. Let's go back. I'm just trying to look why 13 and 19 could not process. Weird, but these two fields are blank. PO number 19, okay, 20,000, 20,000. Oh, sorry, not a PO number. It's requisition number 19 and requisition number 13. These two couldn't process. We even though put in like it says 2,50,000 and finance approver has a limit of, okay, you're right, Deepak. So this was supposed to, it says like the lower limit, anything beyond 10K. So they should have been at see a million, for example. So that's why I could not qualify. Now if I change it and I'll say one more time, let's rerun. It's supposed to go to Sandeep. one more time over here. Let's remove and resubmit. I could have said one more button, rerun the PO request, and this could have been done. But yeah, now this will go into the PO creation part. See, requisition 13 got 25 and got 26 number PO. So all of them are listed like this, and they should be waiting for Sandeep's approval. So currently says PO number 25 is approved, PO is created, rest everything is waiting, mostly for me, and 1, 2, 3 for Sandeep. PO require approval. Let's give it an approval over here. And when I give approval, it says, got it, thanks. The page can be closed now. Okay, this is done. Number 22, monitor 32-inch. I'll say approve, done. Okay. And as soon as I approve, they are getting into this approval state right here itself. Then further down, I could go with this one.
I got the mail for PO26.
Right. So they are approved one by one. Nice. Okay. I hope you see it's a tedious and very slow process while we are trying to establish this whole system. But by the way, instead of clicking it all the way on all of these modules, you can always go here, and just below there is a log of each of these modules. So you can see input and their outputs like this. Right? So let's say what came out over here from this is looking at this point. Now, why these are not getting approved? 23, 22, and 21. Let me see. So if I go here, the PO number which was created over here, PO number 26, this is PO number 25. Because unless until all the PO will be processed, it will be a problem. PO number 19, no data, but okay. Printer 1, 250,000. Okay. It didn't get any approver. So I think we rerun this. It was fine. Couple of them here is showing some error. 24. It cannot update the PO status. And what is the reason? And when? Chaitanya, did you get a PO called PO number?
PO number 24 I got.
24, right?
Yes.
Perfect. This also couldn't update status back into the sheet. What is the reason? PO creation date. Okay, so this is already solved. I think last time it was getting stuck. But if I say now, issue date is all okay. PO is created, execute these steps. This is done. So now system is getting started rotating. Okay, I think we just have to resolve a couple of, because the Airtable was not properly synced, I just have to resolve a couple of issues and they should be good to go. Guys, give me just 1 minute. I'll quickly resolve a couple of issues because of the previous one. Just 3-4 issues has to be resolved, nothing more. A simple Airtable column change triggered so many problems. Maybe let's do one thing. We'll have to do this whole exercise one more time because this Airtable field is also causing some issues. So whenever I'm trying to unbind data, let's the simple PO creation date. If I click on execute, now it's all fine. It's getting done. Okay, guys, if you're ready, let's do one more time, one quick exercise. And even I raised this limit. So now these should be okay. So it should not be waiting for finance approval and all. Let's scrap this whole table. Please be ready. And I think I can divide Sandeep more things now between you, me, or I can add one more approver over here, which could have been Deepak. But even I can add one more approver. This whole thing will be done really fast. So I'll say above 50,000, above 100,000, and above 200,000. Anything beyond 10K up to 50, right? Then 100, 200. And this could have been more than 200,000, which could easily be covered over here up to $1 million, something like this. Okay, so Deepak, just pass me your email address.
I've given in chat.
Okay, Chaitanya, you also gave. So, okay, let me take, that's fine. So 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, and $1 million. And over here, we'll go and let's try to make it maybe 10,000, 8,000. This could go with, let's say, 60,000. This could go to, for example, let's say 150,000. And in the same way, I could have put in things like this. Okay, now let's see if we run all of them once again. I hope everything is good and there are no errors, no issues remaining here. This table is fine. This is also, this is also requesting cannot be fine. That's fine. Should be okay. Let's run this one more time and let's see how it goes. Only for one of them. So here, 28 number PO is created and they should have been sent to shortlisted vendors. I think now any of you can approve. There is a formula issue. Okay, guys, that's fine. You can please, instead of wasting so much time on this testing part, I'm just going to run through all of these purchase orders. So please, whoever get any of these POs, you can please approve it right from your side because multiple people are going to get it. That should be okay. So see here, now all the POs are being created, 28 until 36, 37. So you can, anyone if you can approve it. Let's see, finance approver, the PO approver over here. And let me remove.
Manish, I got 35, 36.
Perfect. You can please approve that. POs created. And let me see what I got. I got 30, 29, 28, 32, and 33.
I got 30, 34, 37 and approved.
Perfect. And they started reflecting over here. 32 as well. And now 33 as well. Perfect. So all of these POs are created and they would have been sent to everyone along with the person who is requesting them. So you would have received a copy of your PO as well, which is being sent to the vendor, right? So now this first step is clear and we did a couple of iterations, but yeah, necessary to maintain things. I think nothing went to Sandeep as such, but here Manish, Deepak, and Chaitanya allocated to these three people as a finance approver right here itself. Up to 50,000. So I think things were either less than 10,000 or more than 50,000. That's why Sandeep did not get anything, but these got divided into 333, something like this. Perfect. Now let's move forward. And since you got it, what I would request from you guys, please create an invoice format with the mentioning of this PO. So you can take a screenshot of this PO and ask GPT or Claude, can you please create me one invoice which is matching to this value, less than it, or greater than this? Maybe one each of you, that will be helpful. And then I would request you to send an email in response to this PO because you are also one of the recipient of this email, right? Which went to the vendor. So I'm assuming if you are the vendor who's replying to this email, that PO number email, and saying that, hey, I got this particular purchase order. Here is my invoice submission against this particular PO, right? So in that case, the PO will start, like your invoice will start getting into the system. See, for example, Deepak, you would have received a PO as well, which is called PO number 33. I think, no, sorry, it's Vishnu, not Deepak actually. I'm not sure whose ID is this. UBI and okay,
Fine.
Mohammed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have received one PO which says PO number 32, right? So now
Yeah.
you can put this entire thing back into the system, into GPT or Claude, and ask it, can you help me to create an invoice which is of, let's say, 9,500 or let's say exactly $10,000 of pricing, right? Then we are going and reply to the same email over here, reply to this, and you say, here is my email attached. Here is the email
Okay.
attached. And okay, I think don't forget one thing, very, very important. This supposed to come back to admin@Growwstacks, right? Which is a common email sending to all of the people or coordinating with all of people. Don't reply this now. Let's first build the automation workflow and then I'll tell you how to reply or when to reply, right? Okay. Now, while you're doing this or while you like establish a prompt, we have to work upon watch email, and watch email is going to help us to respond back like, or let's say get these emails back on the actual automation workflow, which is going to extract all the information from this particular invoice, will put it into invoice table, match it to the PO, and further down, it will also let's say match whether the PO is having value, doesn't have value, we'll send it to finance approver, and so on. We are going to create a new automation workflow where whenever we submit or reply invoices to this particular PO email, they should be processed using some AI agent, using some, not AI agent, AI module, right? So first of all, let me build something on Gmail. Okay, there is a problem with my Outlook. What is the problem? Whenever you reply to any email on this admin Growwstacks, this is connected to two places. One is with the Outlook and second is over here in the Gmail. So it got two endpoints. So what I'm doing is I will attach my Outlook module over here, say Outlook, and I'm going to watch emails which are coming in into this particular mailbox. Admin Outlook is already connected. That's fine. It's all good. Every minute I can try to fetch emails. Let's try and see it's working or not. Perfect. It's working and it's getting a couple of emails, but that's fine. So now Outlook admin is integrated and I should say, do not simplify, give me all the fields in a raw output. So let's see how it goes. Perfect. Now I'm getting all the information, including attachments and everything else. Right. So this is here has attachment, it's false. Fine. So whenever there is attachment, it will come like a binary file over here at the last. So here I'll say admin Outlook email. Perfect. This is the point. Now, if someone is going to reply to this email, which we sent using this particular one, let me try this over here. Can one of you please reply to one of the emails and let's see how it goes. You may have to do it next time also.
I've
But
replied.
okay, perfect. Let's see. I'm waiting for this to come in.
I too replied.
Just one, that's it. Otherwise, you'll have to do it again. Okay, we got some. Okay, things for test run. I'm waiting because it's every minute trigger, and this can take some time to process, at least 1 minute Okay, by the time, let's open this one. Still waiting. Or let me get in here. Try to trigger for hook. Okay, perfect. One reply came. It says Growwstacks, PO number 37, and that is being sent from Chaitanya. Perfect. And is there attachment? Yes, it has attachment is equal to true. Right, so it got an attachment over here. Let's see where is the attachment file at. Okay, this doesn't have any attachments. I think we'll have to get attachments using another module that's called download attachment or list all the attachments. Down, maybe download get many, and further down we have get. Okay, let's try this get many attachment, and it's supposed to pick up attachment from this particular email. Now, how this email look like? So if I go here and put this into expression, it is the whole mail ID, which can help us to list all the attachment from a given email. And this is the ID over here. So instead of matching it or selecting it from anywhere, I can simply choose this. And this is the JSON ID, which is coming from the first module to get or list of the all attachment. And then if I run it, let's see what happens. Perfect. So it's getting us the attachment ID. It says there is an invoice for PO37 digital trends update.pdf. Now here is the attachment ID, which further we should go and download attachment inside the Anytel, right? So third module has to be added, which is again Outlook. And here we'll say attachment, download an attachment, and again from the message. So it has two things. One is the message. Let me try this. Let me try this as well. Just to compare the IDs, see here, this is the whole ID. How does copy? Perfect. So this is the attachment ID, and at the top we have this email ID as well, the message ID. So let's copy this. We are going to map it from here. This is our message ID, and this is our attachment ID right here, right? And it says the output field name should be data. That's fine. Data can be a default name as such. Let's execute. And this time it's supposed to get us the binary file of 2.54 kilobytes. Let's click download. I would like to see what file is this. So digital trend, this is the invoice, and there's a PO number mentioned, PO37. Right. So we got this entire data over here as an within Anytel. Right. So first of all, watch email, get attachment, and download attachment. Right. Now further down, I could extract data of this file. So I'll say extract from a file. And here I'll say I want to extract data from a PDF, right? So let's try pickup. Here, file name is data, extract from PDF, this is all good. I can say execute this step, and it's supposed to get me all of the data which is available inside your system. So it says PO number is here, invoice date is here, phone number, invoice number, and so on. So the entire information is coming up as an extraction. Now, we haven't applied any condition, by the way, right? So there is no logic to it. Currently, we are just processing through everything in the same manner. Then we'll go here and we'll say, can one of the AI module, either it could have been Gemini or something, read this invoice, or maybe directly we extracted this. Can you frame this data? So I'll go with AI, and I can say OpenAI can help me to format or structure this whole thing. So I'll say message a model. And these things we have done plenty of times. So let's go with this. We'll choose any mini model. 4.1 mini is good. Hey, can you help me extract the following data into a well-structured JSON format, right? And what I want, so I would say here, I wanted to get, first of all, the PO number, comma, I would like to get the invoice number, colon, I would like to get the invoice date, colon, I would like to get the invoice amount, invoice total amount, colons, and maybe invoice date, number, account. What else I need in my table? So here is my invoice table. What I want, invoice number, date, PO ID, vendor name, total amount, and the invoice status. Fine. So I think we have all of these information available right here itself. Do we have invoice value? Yeah, it's there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Total 4 information to come out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Done. And this way we will say, I want this whole data to be into a well-structured JSON format. Simplify output is fine. Let's try to map this data as well. I'll say here is the invoice data, and invoice data goes directly over here, right? So this is how we can structure things. Let's try to execute and let's see what happens. Perfect. We got PO number, invoice number, then we have invoice date and the total amount of INR 60,000. I can put one thing here without the currency symbol. Here also I could say only number format without the currency symbol. Let's try to execute one more time. This INR 60,000 should go off because, okay, perfect. See here, 60,000 is gone. and date is also being put in like this. Date could have been in UTC format. Let's execute. This date should also come into a proper done. This is how the date looks like, right? So date is into a date format, an amount is in number format, a string and a string, right? Now we can go next and we'll say, I wanted to search this particular PO, right? So I'll go to Airtable and I'll go here, I'll say search record. And from the PO table, I am going to get all of the information of the requisition of the vendor as well as the purchase order. So I'll go here to purchase order table and I'll say, I would like to query where the PO number is equal to something. So PO ID should be my pickup field. I'll go back, let's say 2 brackets, curly braces, PO ID is equal to the PO ID that is coming in right here itself. Let's remove few things. Let's put this column back at the end and braces close. Let's see whether it gets us the PO ID, PO-37 or not. Perfect. See here, we got all the values of PO37 where we have the vendor selected, this vendor ID, requirement ID, the PO value is 0. Why it's everywhere PO value went 0. A simple error which I did not thought of actually. Here, when I was updating record that PO is created, I left out a value called PO0. This would have messed up everything. I don't want to create it one more time, but I think we can take all these values from this table. So let's pick them and I'll say purchase order can directly have all of these values straightforward like this. My bad, actually, I forgot to update one of the node over here, but that's fine. Still, I'm working into this. Let me open up, remove the 0, close, save, done. And let me close this instance. So I should not overwrite things. Perfect. Now let's go back. Let's try to run it one more time. PO number 37, it should run. And now it's getting us a value of 150,000 rupees, dollars, whatever. Along with all of these requisition ID, the vendor ID, vendor email, finance approver ID, and so on. So based upon these values, I can easily pick up any of these people. Now, once I have this, once I found it, what I'll say based upon a condition, whether my PO has any value in balance or not. And if you remember, we had one column called balance PO value, and currently it is positive 150,000, right? This amount. So if it is positive or negative or neutral, depend upon this, right? So now in this case, I'll say I did search a PO and I have to check if the PO has value left or not. So I can simply put if condition balance of this amount is greater than 0 or greater than the actual invoice value. So here is the model and here is our invoice amount. I'll say whether this amount is greater than this amount, yes or no. Let's try to execute this step. What it says, true, false. Wrong type system is a string, but expecting a number. Let me see if I can make it .to number. It's fine. Let's try one more time. Perfect. It's went into true branch. Why? Because this value is 60,000 versus the PO balance is 150,000. And just to highlight one thing over here, whenever you wanted to apply any formula to any of these values, right? You can simply at the end put a dot. Let's say how I had this value and it says it's a string value, right? So what I can do simply at the end of this entire value, which is starting from here to here, I can say a dot. And as soon as I do that, I get to see plenty of different functions available over here, inline functions within Anything. And one of them is called toNumber. It says convert a string into a number. And that too, we can have any sort of, how would I say, like format or some sort of formatting can also be applied. So for example, you wanted to put some comma, some decimal, they can also be done using for like format number. But again, apart from this, plenty of more things like quote, hash, replace all, special character, slice, split, many things are available. You can do queries also. You can validate certain thing. It's a domain, it's a valid email, it's empty, not empty, is a numeric value or not, and so on. Cases can be handled right here itself. So to lowercase, uppercase. I think someone was asking me yesterday, Make has all of those formulas available where we can see formula within Anything. So here is the option where you can see all the inline functions within Anything, right? So see here, to number, to date, to boolean, parse JSON, they are all available right here itself, right? So you can play around with them as and when you want. Otherwise, code is always there. Code function is there. You can go with that code module. But essentially, at this point, I applied toNumber and converted this into a normal number instead of a string. So now it's getting into true branch because PO value or PO remaining balance value is 150,000 versus the invoice I'm going to process is only of 60,000, right? Now let's move forward. It's on true branch. I'll say that's fine. Let's insert this into the invoice table. So I'll say first Airtable over here, and obviously
Manish, we need to check another line now, whether the
uh,
material supplied and material means as per PO should be same.
okay. So in that case, I can leave it, at least in this case, I can leave it
Okay.
on the procurement approver.
Manual checking.
Yes, that person is going to check. Otherwise, what I could do, since we found this PO, now instead of even getting, let's say, or maybe after getting this pricing point, I could say one more time Airtable. And in this case, we are going to get a record. Why so? And what record to get? See, this PO doesn't have any mapping of the material directly. It's taking material from this requirement ID or requisition ID, right? And materials are being mentioned here: MacBook Pro, Pro M, pen quantity, and so on. So I'll have to pick up values from this requirement table, and then I'll give it to the AI that can you please check, I requested this material, is it the same one? And I mentioned in the invoice or all. So maybe let's do that step as well. So here I'll say rename this, get PO details. And that's a problem actually. Whenever I do rename, it's going to lose the context over here, like most of the time with balance value. So now instead of this JSON, it'll become JSON and then the whole get PO value details and all. So always try to follow a standard thing. Whenever you add modules, please name them first and then do the mapping. Otherwise, your mappings will always be in trouble. That I always face. Done. While I'm explaining things, not while doing things, right? So over here, this is giving us a requirement ID like this, right? Record ID. Now I can go here and I'll say, let's rename get requirement details. And further down, I could go to this system purchase to payment requirement table, and we have a requirement record ID right here itself. Let's try to run this, see what happens. Perfect. I got item name, category, description, quantity, justification, and all, right? Maybe a couple of more things can also be mapped right here. Again, I could apply one more AI module and I'll say, can you please do a check and let me know if the material what I requested and the material what I received in this PO is same, sorry, in this invoice is same or not. So let's go here. Hey, your job is to check that the supplier invoice has the correct item and quantity that I ordered via a purchase order. Here are both the details. Let's say supplier invoice extract, and maybe even over that, I'll say PO details, PO number. I can just map a couple of things over here. So PO number goes like this, and it will also do double check as well as the item name. Where's the item name? Over here. Then further down, item category. Then further down, item description right here itself. And finally, quantity. Currently, we are considering only one invoice to come next to each PO, but still we are checking this. I showed you earlier. So these are the details of this particular purchase order. And the supplier invoice extract, I can simply pass right from extract from file, and here itself the whole text of this, right? So this is what it looked like. Now, even along with this, I can also ask it to match whether the same supplier or not, because sometime maybe someone knows what is the next PO number and they submit their invoice with that PO number. Then it should not wrongly map this, right? So I'll say selected supplier. And again, so many more complications or more rules can be put in here. There is no end to it, but you can think of this, right? So here what we selected is our supplier. Okay, here is our supplier, but we need to get the supplier detail from the system. So before this, let me try and let's say get requirement detail. Along with this, I can duplicate and I'll say get the supplier detail as well. So let's disconnect, connect it here, and further down connect it here. And this will be get supplier details, right? Now, instead of this, I will say instead of requirement table, go to the vendor table, and over here, I should select the selected vendor or selected supplier, right? Let's try to execute, because all of these details are available into my requirement requisition. So I got to see supplier name, their maybe if they have address, GST number or something else, I could always have more information. So I can even check whether this invoice is coming from the right supplier or not. So system can check it itself. So this is there. Now let's go back and I can add one more field. Wow, it is gone because I changed the name of this I'll have to remap. So as and when we change names, it's always pathetic. See here, now it says get details. While I'm demonstrating things, this always happen because I have to change names here and there, and that's fine. Quantities 2. Now over here, we already have get supplier details. I'll say supplier name goes like this. Even I can put supplier email if there's a pre-verified email or something. And then here's the supplier invoice extract. Now, what I want the system to do. So I'll say maybe as an extra prompt, this is fine. I could add one more prompt and I'll say, get me the final output in the following JSON format. And what this JSON is supposed to have, few things, match. Sorry, Deepak, I forgot. What did you ask? Okay, item should be same. Match the item details and quantity and check if they are aligned. Match the invoice and if they're aligned with the PO. Also check if the supplier name is same as in the PO. Add a match as partial or and same way. This is coming to my mind for now. I'll say it doesn't match, partial match and all. You can always put your own thoughts, right? So what would okay, and the supplier name. Exact partial doesn't match. And based upon this, maybe I could have said true, false, or something like this. I just said for now, exact or doesn't match. I'm not sure what kind of results, how it'll impact because it's matches or doesn't match. Maybe this should be a straight thing. This came to my mind. I just put in everything here. Let's see how does this behave. And let's try to, okay, we got these things mapped. This is mapped. Now JSON output is fine. Simple output. Let's try to execute. Okay. Exact, and this doesn't match. So it's not a right supplier to proceed with. So in this case, we can push it back to the supplier and say, okay, sorry, your invoice doesn't match or whatever you are trying to process with, it's not aligning with the purchase order. So email can go back to the supplier. So I'm not sure if there should be or there's supposed to be a condition, maybe one single condition which matches each of these things, or there can be a confidence score, or there can be some sort of indicator like to process or require human review or something like this. So maybe what I can do, I think for this automation workflow, we have to make it a little different. So it can decide which direction to go. So let's say, I'm just trying to make it workable. Otherwise, we'll be getting into multiple loops of testing itself. So I'll say match the item detail quantity, check if they are aligned with the PO. Okay. Match the following invoice details and check if they align with the PO. Right. So these things has to be also check if the supplier name. Okay. This is also done already. Or maybe we can put it like this and return the following output. Now here I say decision, right? Something like this. I'll say good to proceed or human review required, something like this, right? And second, reason behind this. So why it is good to go, a short paragraph or bullet points in less than 50 words, right? Maximum, right? Something like this. Now, once I have it, now I can emphasize more on, let's say, ensure none of the details are overlooked. Let's see how it goes. So currently, instead of asking for these many parameter level match, I am simply asking, okay, do your own matching and then tell me whether it's good to go or human review required and a short para. Let's see. It says human review required. Item, description, quantity match in the PO. However, the supplier name on the invoice digital trend does not match with the PO selected. Supplier, supply pro. Item category is not explicitly mentioned on the invoice. So this is fine. This could have been a little more sensible thing, like for those many parameter comparison, we can have a direct decision over here. So this could have gone into a human review and that person may say, I'm holding this invoice, I'm rejecting it, or maybe asking supplier to resubmit or something like that, right? But essentially we have a human review in place, or we can ask AI to even reject it. And there can be one more route which say that, okay, this PO is not even found and or your invoice is not eligible for processing because it is missing out some important details, like there is no GST number or no proper address or no tax details or whatever, XYZ things. So multiple combinations can be handled from there as well. But I'll say invoice matching with PO, right? This is the AI from here. Now we could go back and where we created this, okay, we haven't done any invoicing record yet. So let's go. Assuming that it's all good to go, I'll create an Airtable record essentially we have to actually create this record first, so we can at least have record of all the incoming invoices. Whatever way they go, that's fine, but we should have sync of this, right? So I'll say invoice table is here. Now, what is the invoice number? Could go here and we can pick it right from here itself. Here is the invoice number. Where's the date? Here is the invoice date, PO ID. Now, this is a mapping field. This PO number should not come. Otherwise, like other way around, it should get the PO ID or PO record number. So over here, we have this PO record number like this. Now, again, in case of vendor, we are not mapping the vendor directly as a vendor name. We'll say, I want to map the vendor either from here, get supplier details, and this record ID is supposed to be mapped, right? And the invoice total obviously supposed to come from the invoice extraction as well, goes over here. The selection could have gone into different ways. So currently we don't have any rejection part. Says pending with procurement team, with finance approver, with account payable team, on hold, paid, dispute, value exhausted. This could also have something called rejected, or it'll say good to go or something like this. So maybe I can add this decision right here. It will automatically update value over there. Let's try to execute and let's see what happens. Currently, let's see the invoice table has 2 invoices. Let me remove them. Something should go. Let's try to execute. Perfect. It says invalid PO ID because PO ID expects an array, but we got a normal mapping of the record number. Let me go back. See, here is our, where is the PO detail? Get PO details. And this particular field, I would have mapped it from, I think yesterday I shown you that split method. So currently it's just getting as a simple record. What I can do, I can say dot split and leave it with these 2 braces, right? This kind of a round bracket, and now it becomes an array, right? Same thing may apply over here as well, vendor name. But let's see, let's try to execute. Next error message can be vendor name. Perfect. So here also I can go and I can say just do a split. It's not going to do any split as such, but it'll just put things into an array. Let's try to execute one more time. Invoice status says good to go or reject is not a default invoice status. So in this case, okay, it doesn't have, and I think I'll have to go here and I'll have to put the invoice status as few things rejected and also good to go, and further down human review required. Right, these 3 things what we are putting over there. And let me do one thing one more time. I just have to type in exact text, otherwise it'll again give us error that your things are getting mismatched. Okay, sorry, it's good to proceed. Oof, good to proceed, human review required. Okay, this is fine. And reject. So it's supposed to be changed here, rejected, done. Let's process one more time. It should say rejected, the exact spelling or exact type case and everything. Now here, I'll say create invoice card or maybe create invoice. And let's try to execute one more time. Okay, we got rejected. Rejected is already an option. Save, execute one more time. It's supposed to load properly. Okay, I see. Sometimes this happens as soon as you update something here. See, currently you have a couple of status called rejected, good to proceed, human review, but they are not coming as a drop-down field over here. Even though I take it up, down, there is no status. So in this case, we have to go here and we'll do a quick refresh column list. Right, so let's do this. And now if we go, we got all of them, good to proceed, rejected and everything. Now if I update this thing over here, it should run and the invoice is being created right here itself. And see what happened. Invoice number, invoice date, the PO ID, where we can click and look out the whole PO value, or let's say all PO information. At the same time, the supplier name, which is here, Supply Pro. Further down, 60,000 rupees value. And it says, here it says the invoice is rejected. Now, since it already connected with this PO ID, what happened actually? If I go to purchase order table, see what happens. It says there is a 60,000 rupees value invoice is being applied in the roll-up column and the balance remains 90,000. But that's not true, right? Because it's a rejected invoice and we are not even like concerned about this. So what we can do, instead of this, let's click on the invoice roll-up, and here we say we would like to match certain condition. And what is this condition? Only if the invoice status is equal to good to go, or maybe I can put is any of, which is paid, which is pending with all of these 3 things, or maybe something which is good to proceed. If it is any of them, then only consider this value. Otherwise, don't consider this value to be calculated within this invoice value. And as soon as I do, let's click change, the value becomes 0. Even this invoice since it has a PO ID reference, hence the invoice is mapped over here. But obviously in the invoice table, they should have gone. The same thing applies to vendor table as well. So if there is an invoice which is coming in the name of, sorry, not in the name of Supply Pro, but somehow this vendor has name called Supply Pro or something else, I can even skip it and say, I don't want to map any supplier at this point. I can map a PO, but I don't want to map the supplier. That can be skipped. Part of the overall, let's say, thought process. So in this case, I think Airtable has an option, Airtable API for upload file, upload attachment, and that attachment can be referred to that particular record. So we may have to do an extra API call for this. So it's asking for base ID, record ID, attachment file ID, attachment field ID or name, and upload attachment. Fine, it's a post call and it's supposed to carry the whole data over here, something like this. So content, the file name into the data structure. Okay, let's try it. And here it is asking us the bearer token and the content type. So this should go along with it. And let me also see how to connect it. Okay, record ID is supposed to be mentioned over here itself. Let's go back. Here we don't have any make an API call as well. So we cannot do any API call. Guys, just 1 second. In this case, I'll have to go here. I'll say HTTP, make a request, do it a post request. We have to go here and let's pick up this entire URL. Now here in this case, we have to put base ID, record ID, everything. So primarily either we can have, since we are getting only the IDs over here, we'll have to even get the base and the record ID. So base ID can be always static, which is this one, app ID like this. So I can go here, here's the base ID. Record ID can be mapped right from any previous one, but for now I'll just map it myself as this record ID. So let's say here you go and check out this record ID. Let's further go down. Now it says what is your attachment field name or field ID. So here I can go and I'll say my attachment field name is called invoice file. Maybe only file is fine. Let's save, done, upload attachment. Now here it's asking me to give it the authentication or authorization with a bearer and the token. So I'm going to send headers. Authorization should get us the bearer like this. And yesterday we created a token from our Airtable. Let's go back. Let's put it this way. Builder hub. I'm not sure if it is still copyable. No, I cannot copy. Maybe let's enter a new one. N8N test 16 November. Add a base, which is nothing but system purchase to payment. I could have gone with record read write. Is there anything for the attachment? Block message, block manage. Maybe let me give it all the permission so it should not bother me later on about any attachment as such. Schema read write is also fine. Okay, done. I think good to go. And let's create a token. Here is our token. Let's go back. Here is the whole token. And now it's asking us for the data. So content type, text or plain. There is a file, the file name, and this entire string. This is supposed to go like a, okay, JSON body. And over here, I can directly paste this entire JSON. Now, within this, we are getting the invoice file from this download, and it has something called data in the output. I think I'll have to rerun this so I can get a binary file structure over here. So content type is this, file is this, and file name could have been, okay, let's try to map values. So content type goes over here. Name should be fine like this. So I just have to map some data stuff over here, but let me see. So there are a few ways to do this. Like either we can send some sort of file things as well along with the attachment. That is something I have to figure out, but let's see. Let's see. Currently, I don't see any binary coming from the previous one. It may fail, but let's see. Wow, it's giving us this file URL and no. So essentially, once I map this file data, this is how the file comes in and it can attach directly to this record, right? I just have to rerun one of the module from previous. Let's click save. I think this one. And here it is getting the binary and that too, here's the data. But it has things already here. Okay, what I can do instead of this whole JSON like this, guys, sorry if it is a waste of time, but field below and field.
This is important.
So there are two things supposed to go. One is called this unwritten binary file. And along with this, I would also like to send. Let me try make it a successful run and then I'll show you what I'm doing actually. So this is what is being expected by the system. It says content type. So I'll say form data. Let's go content type. And this can be whatever I mapped earlier here, the content type from the previous field, previous nodes. Then further down, I could have add parameter, and then further down we can have the file, or let's say file name, which is coming from here, and I could map everything like this. So instead of mapping that binary into directly into the system, and here I'll say file. File is supposed to be not data, but it's supposed to be a binary file. File can be mapped, and simply data variables can be inserted like this. But let me see where it got failed. It got run only until this point. Now this is doing some mischief. So let's remove. Let's try to add this over here. Let's go execute this. It'll move forward. This step is done. Let's go further. Good. Let's see if we're getting values until this point. This operation expects a node input data contain binary file data, not from item 0. I will have to look into this. I'm not very sure. This data mapping it doesn't come here. And why not? There is no issue. So this data field, which is a binary one, supposed to be mapped like this. The operation expect the node input data to contain a binary file data, which is already here, but none was found in item 0. Okay, form data is so content type, the file name, and the file. Strange. Okay, let's do one thing. I think it's supposed to go in a different sequence. So I can add parameter, and this parameter can be the file. File could have been mapped directly as data. Sorry, this should have been a binary thing. Should be mapped as DATA. Data is the name of this particular one, right? Then further down we have form data is fine, and I should go and pick up content type like this. And this content type will come from right here itself, which is nothing but application-pdf. And the third one over here should be file name, which can come over here like this. And here's the file name. Let's try to run because it says item 0 is supposed to have the binary. Make sure previous node outputs a binary. It's okay. I'm not sure why it's not working, but it's supposed to. So this is how we map binary files into the system. I think I'll have to check on this because this data is even a mapping as an expression supposed to map this data over here. No binary found. Else, let me let me do one last attempt over here. So let's type in data. I'm just trying to send a binary, which should carry, because when we map it to expression, it directly goes, and we just have to type in this name of the file data point. That's it. Nothing else. Okay, please, you try to solve it, but this is how we send the files. Otherwise, if I, let's say, for example, go here, form data, you can straightforward put a couple of form data over here, let's say file name and everything, and this file will be attached like this. How we got this attachment using the API, it gets like this, right? So currently it's failed to load because the data did not go through, but essentially files will come over here and you can visualize them inside Airtable. And once it run, it will also give you the file URL. So you can share it with anyone, or maybe it's a publicly accessible thing. So that could have been done. For now, we have this file is coming in and should be uploaded all along with the invoice table. Okay, let's move on. So we created this invoice. Now, based upon the decisions taken by this particular GPT, human review required, or there is a, let's say, there's a discrepancy on the invoice, it can be rejected, or it could have been sent for further approval, good to go. Now, based upon this, I can have multiple, let's say, sequences or switch case. So here we go to flow, and on flow, I could have switch. Now, switch can help us apply conditions and define the routes. So let's go here, and I'll say, first of all, if the output of this one is equal to human review required, it should have a route called human review required. Second is, if the output of this one has something called rejected, it should have another one called rejected, a second route from which we'll decide what to do. And the third route supposed to be if it is equal to good to proceed. Let me check if it is the exact term, good to proceed, then it should have the same term over here, good to proceed. And now it got us 3 different routes. So human review required, rejected, and good to proceed. Now, based upon this, let's go first with rejection, or maybe let's switch it. This is how you can move your cards, right? So essentially, in case if you wanted like some rule should come it down or first, you can always move them here and there. So rejection, I want to put it at the last. So I could have moved this card, and at last it comes like this. So rejection at the bottom. In case of rejection, I can send an email to this particular vendor, and I'll not draft any email now, but I'll just send email using my latest connection to the vendor submitted with this invoice. So from wherever it came, it's supposed to go back to the same hierarchy. Currently, it is not mappable because this route has not been executed. but I'll try to pick it something from, maybe I can add an edit note, or let me see. I can just click anywhere and try to pick the value of this sender. So who's the sender? Here is the sender. Sender, let's say, whenever you try to map, if values are not available, park it somewhere and then Control X. So you get to have that mapping. This is done. I have put in here, and I could say your invoice is auto rejected by the system. And further down here, hello, our system couldn't find the, or maybe couldn't process the invoice due to some discrepancies, or maybe due to some mismatches or something like this, due to some issues listed below. Please take a look and correct the invoice. Now, this email could have gone before as well. So if I go here, I can provide this reason, right? So reason can be mentioned like this. Currently, it's a HTML structure. I could have gone to this text. Maybe let's copy this text, and this will render like a text, right? But this is how we can send a rejection email to vendor. Invoice rejection email to vendor or to supplier, whatever. Second could have been human review required. So similar to this, I could have just duplicate this, and I'll say for the human reviewer, which could have been a ops manager. Ops manager can be anyone, like a predefined email. For now, let's say I'll put my own email address as an ops manager, but that can be picked up right from this particular table. So the approver and the other people, along with, we can have someone who's operation manager, can be picked up. See here, we gave it some things, right? So I go back and I'll say a new invoice. Let's see if it is human review required. So I'll say new invoice required review. Right? And here down, we said we received following invoice from XYZ vendor, whatever the vendor name is, XYZ vendor. I'm not doing any mapping. I'm just trying to showcase you how things can be done, right? And it requires human review before moving forward. Now, you may say, can we have some approval mechanism, human in loop over here? Answer is no, because this person may have to look into this invoice and figure out what is the exact discrepancy. He may take a decision to reject it or to send email back to or invoice back to this person, to the supplier, right? So in this case, it is not a right thing to like use human in loop, but instead let him take his decision on the manual way. I'll say reason is here. And then, and obviously this could have your mappings from this vendor. So vendor name could have also been mapped over here. So from vendor, get supplier details, not this one actually. We are going to have a supplier name from here. Okay. See, one important step. Be asked is to extract a couple of information: PO number, invoice number, the invoice date, and total amount. We could have asked a supplier name to be extracted from this invoice as well. And anyways, we are asking the system further down for a name match or mismatch. We could have one name matching from here as well. But for now, I'll say, okay, from vendor, that's fine. And it should go and look into the whole system base invoice. I could also give it a reference to the particular invoice number. So here is the invoice record link. It's something like this. And then from this particular record that we created over here, this is the ID. I could always refer this ID or this particular invoice raw number or record number. Let's go here. What I can do, this is my invoice table. Here I can copy this, go back, paste it, and see. Until this point, we have, sorry, one second. Let's open this. And here we got the record ID. Rest everything will remain same. Only this record IDs keep on changing for each of new invoice. So I can copy this. I'll go back. Here I'll say, I just want to replace only this record ID. That's it. So this record ID should come up like this, right? And now this becomes a full length record ID. So whenever a new invoice comes in, the person can click on this and they can directly land on the record of this particular invoice, open up like this, right? So it'll be helpful for the reviewer as well, which one to look at. Then now I can say invoice notified for human review. It's a bad habit. Like I always configure modules and then I rename it. It creates blunders all the time. I'll improve it, but yeah, see here. And further down, we could have good to proceed. Then it could have been sent to the approver. Now, who can be approver for this invoice? I think the same people who approved this purchase order, maybe a finance approver or someone else. So from this PO ID, what I could do, I can have a lookup field. So if I click on this, it says add lookup field. And if I go here, who approved this PO? So there is someone from finance. then maybe there's someone from a business or something like. So the same person who approved the PO can also get the invoice for approval. And since all these fields already exist here, I could easily map them. So I'll say here, add lookup field, and then to whom I want the approver name and the approver email, which will be automatically mapped based upon the PO. So let's click on add and see these came. So Deepak approved this PO number 37. Actually, it came twice, thrice, so that's fine. Let's remove it just because of testing. But see here, this here. Now, if everything is good to go, if this would have been marked as good to proceed, I will simply go back and I'll say, since I was creating this record, I may not have received all the information of this particular record when the record is being created. Let's try to execute it one more time and let's see if the approval details is coming in. Okay, perfect. See here, approver email and the approver name both also came when the invoice was created in the system. See here, the next part, what we created here, it got both the names automatically. So now what I could do, I'll go here, add one more email to the Gmail and say send email, send to finance approver for approval, whatever. And now this case, I could have used two things. I could have used it as a an approval mechanism, go ahead, approve it, or let's say wait for approval, human in loop. Or this could have been, I should send him an email, ask him to review, approve, and then the procurement guy who's managing this entire transition can review it. So let's do one thing. Instead of an email, I would go here and I'll say human in loop. And this human in loop can go with Gmail. I'll change my connection. I will set this approver as, okay, I think I'll have to execute the previous notes again. If your processes do not have any approval, I could have removed it. As per your process, I'll say Gmail, send an email to account payable team. That's it, right?
Okay.
All depend upon the organization process, nothing more than that, right? So some organization may want, okay, I want 3-level approvals. Someone says, okay, I don't need any approval, let it go, right? So anyways, we are building a system. So let's say if you say not to get any approval, we can straightforward notify to our maybe like here itself, I can modify this content attaching to this node and we'll say invoice notified to AP team, right? Account payable team. And here we could say new invoice for payment, right? Now this could have said we received following invoice from the vendor. AI already reviewed it and it doesn't require any further approval. Hence, please proceed to pay. Something like this, right? Invoice link is the same. And the reason could have been like, okay, why AI approved this? They can put some more reason there and this could go along, right? Now, this could have been a single email ID of account payable team. I could say AP@Growwstacks or something like this, and this can run down. So this is how, and obviously after this also we have to change the status and we'll say, okay, this is being sent to account payable team. Or while creating the invoice itself, we could have said like, if it is good to go, I could directly send it to account payable team. They can go here and they can open it and say, okay, now it is paid, done, right? And they can make payments to their systems. So essentially, this is how the fourth workflow can also be built up. Again, I'm telling you one last time, there can be multiple variations of this whole system. Whatever you think could have been achieved, but we just have to think loudly like what we wanted to get from the system. But I hope this is clear and it was a good use case related to practical life. And I hope we gained some good understanding of how practical development of the automation workflow can happen or what automations can do in terms of these kind of complex process. So it's not always fancy about creating some content or creating some sort of good looking videos, images, these kind of processes which sit behind the scene, which takes a lot manpower, a lot risk involved there. They can also be automated to some good extent. So whatever we did over here, like with this Airtable and everything, this can stay as a database. This is the interconnected platform, and you can give access to people on a dashboard like Lovable or maybe on Bolt or something like this. Or we also saw interfaces like this. So people can submit their invoices, a good, beautiful looking with logo branding platform. Vendors can come back, check, and so on. So yeah, interface can be given to it.